Submit to the High Council here on World Class Bullshitters. I'm your host, Jeff Hicks, and with me tonight is Mecha Random 42.
Hello.
We're also joined by Tom from Midnight's Edge After Dark.
Good evening, folks, or afternoon, morning, whatever it is, where you is.
You messed up your line.
I fuck it up all the time. And now I just screwed up Jeff's monetization. Sorry about that.
Well, we forgot to introduce our final guest. Say hello to Comics Division, folks.
How everybody?
Back
the worst
again.
intro ever.
Not bad. Actually, it's kind of timely.
Yeah.
That's right.
Christmas time is here again.
It's the season.
This season.
Okay,
So, folks, we're back with Jesse and I watched, the first 4 South Park Christmas specials? We got to go back and let's watch them again now that we're in the season. You sound like
one time when you fell asleep, I put myself in your mouth and my friends took pictures.
Who have you become? I love it.
I love Mr. Hanky.
All because I did a Mr. Hanky impression.
Hurry home.
That's going to be the whole show.
Yeah,
Good night,
seriously.
No, all joking aside, we were saying this off air, guys. We have a lot to cover tonight. There's all sorts of stuff where Hollywood's crumbling with the Warner Brothers announcement that we talked about last week. All kinds of crazy Spider-Man news, including Alfred Molina and a rumor from Collider about Tobey Maguire, Kirsten Dunst, Andrew Garfield, and Emma Stone. So there's a lot to cover tonight, as well as some get rid of Kamala Khan, hashtag not my Miss Marvel, or whatever the hashtag was, as well as the Mandalorian. Yeah, hashtag. Here's the best way to fix Miss Marvel. Forget it never happened. Well, yeah, folks, we have a lot to cover tonight. So do me a favor, spread the word. Let everybody know that the High Council is live right now. And let's get ready to have a great show. But before we start, I do want to have a special shout out to a listener. We're going to do something a little more in depth on Thursday, folks. But this is a somber thing. But we did lose a listener over the last few days, actually. If you're a longtime listener of the channel, you've listened to the episode Moist, The Moist Awakens. Our friend Brandon Moist did pass away. I know a lot of people in the chat.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's really sad. And it's sad, too, because I went back and I was like, man, last year on basically this date last year was the last time I talked to him. He's like, sorry to hear about your grandma. I hope everything goes well for her. I was like, thanks, man. That was the last time I ever talked to him. And so just that, hearing that news yesterday, or was it this morning? It's been a weird couple of days.
It was
yesterday, I think.
Yeah.
But hearing that news really kind of took me back. So, folks, if you've heard the news, of course, we're going to say something about it on Thursday. The show, he's the only listener to have an episode dedicated to his name. So we'll talk about that on Thursday night. But I just want to let everybody know out there, put 1 in the chat to pay your respects to Brandon Moist, longtime listener of the channel, huge supporter of the Fandom Menace, and all around a great dude. So, yeah, it's a sad time to lose somebody any time of the year, but especially around the holidays, it really blows. So,
yeah, no kidding.
Our friend Terminus EST says, I heard Mecha hit a milestone.
Yeah,
well, so did you, Jeff. When you met Jeff, you really hit that. Now, I appreciate that, Terminus East. I would high five you if you were here. But Mecha, what milestone did you just pass?
I don't want to jinx it, but I did finally cross over that 60K thing. And it was like, that was the one. That was the big one. Like for me, like the first big one that I kind of set as the goal, because that was when I found, like World Class Bullshitters, Midnight's Edge was around 60K, Geeks and Gamers was around 60K, Ethan was around 60K when all the channels kind of came together for the High Council. So that was kind of the magic number in my head that I wanted to hit. So we finally did, and I wanted to kind of let it sit for a couple of days before I jumped the gun, just in case they took them away again, because you know how YouTube is. Because YouTube.
Oh God, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Hey, look, I'm up 100 subs. Now I'm down 100 subs.
Right.
I know. And they do that.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Hopefully it'll stick. I hope.
So,
all right.
Comics Division, you're a perfect guest to have tonight because a lot of stuff tonight is comic book related. So since you're our guest, let's talk about the first one that popped up on my radar today, just briefly, because this character is not worth a damn, and I've still been working on our Avengers video. But Miss Marvel, Disney Plus series under fire for rumored casting decisions, hashtag fix Miss Marvel trends. Yeah, I know, right? Well, there's literally a guy punching on screen, so Freudian slip. But
no guy wants to get a hand job from her.
I'm going to go there.
Make you feel like the tiniest man on earth. I already feel bad enough. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but she's got a whole second career with that fist.
That's what I'm saying. I don't need no happy ending from somebody who's going to make me all depressed. That's not too happy.
You're thinking the wrong end there.
Oh shit.
She could just be one of those people that crushes aluminum cans and recycles them for money. That's
exactly what we're talking about. That's exactly.
I was thinking, Micah, since you're a fan, Beetlejuice. Remember that scene where he becomes the giant set of hammers and hits the people right through the ceiling? Like that's Miss Marvel's second career.
So she works at a carnival. Is that what you're saying?
She's carnival folk. They smell like cabbage.
I think Mick was probably alluding to a donkey show or something like that.
No, I know what you're alluding to. I'm just trying to move.
I know. Barry, I'm trying to ruin it for you, Jeff.
They have donkey fisting videos.
I'm sure they do, and if not, they do now.
They have a video for everything, I believe.
They got 5 guys getting on that shit right this minute if they don't already.
How does the donkey make his fist that big?
With using this model.
So
she's here all week, folks.
I can't take this comic seriously. Sorry,
you shouldn't.
Stretchy. Yeah. She's just the stretchy version. She's just a chick version of Mr. Fantastic with giant fist. Who cares? She's just a wannabe of everybody else.
Well, the funny thing is, there's a rumor going on right now that they're going to make a Plastic Man movie, and they want to do a gender swap. The Mary Sue got to cover this. That's so amazing, right?
What's funny is I knew about this Plastic Man movie a while back, and I couldn't talk about it because somebody we interviewed was involved, but I'm starting to wonder if they're even involved anymore. Like, this was like almost 2 years ago now, so this is like a recent thing.
You mean the one from the Wachowskis?
No. Well, they may have been. Are they involved now?
There was a YouTube video uploaded on July 30th of 2017 that talks about a canceled Plastic Man movie that was fully scripted by the Wachowskis, but canceled and revived over and over again. So what happened? And this video has 272,000 views. So,
well, let's just say somebody we interviewed talked about it off interview, so I can't really talk about it. But I knew this. They were working on a Plastic Man movie like 2 years ago, but it was called Plastic Man. So I'm assuming it was still a man. This person didn't say anything about it being a woman. So
what are they going to call it? Plastic person at this point?
Yeah, plastic person.
I like John Willis's comment. Sequel has to be called Plastic Surgery.
Well, I mean, she can create her own battery-operated boyfriend, I guess.
Well, you know what? Those are the comics for Marvel, right? I'm worried about better quality stuff, but. So this big story right now, the hashtag trending is now because somebody involved on the set, one of the actors assumed support of President Trump.
Yeah, I saw this business.
Yeah, and then Miss Marvel News says, in light of the recent controversies and casting choices, we at Miss Marvel News would like to say we are not associated with the Miss Marvel streaming show and we do not condone them. Well, first off, Miss Marvel News, we knew you were not associated with them because you're a fucking fan site. So just calm down. You're not that important.
Yeah.
And secondly, this show isn't going to work out well. Put it like this. If the fans are already going to fight, this show's just going to end very, very quickly, hopefully.
So what was the big controversy? It's somebody on the crew voted for Trump and that was it?
Oh, there were many controversies, many of them.
I saw something about the hijab being wrong or something. I'll be honest, I wasn't paying a whole lot of attention to it.
Well, no, I don't want to get too political here because, I mean, I'm not even on really one affiliated with either political side at this point as far as I'm concerned. But wouldn't it cause a huge stir if like a few people come out and said, if you voted for Biden, I don't want you to watch my show?
Yeah.
No. It's this little whoever runs the fan site getting triggered because they're upset because of ever changing and moving goalposts of diversity rules and regulations, and apparently some people on the cast are not exactly the exact specific religious beliefs that the characters are. And, so in other words, they're acting and pretending to be the people they're not, so they're upset because one of the actors is a Christian and not Muslim, or
which is Indian. Yeah. And,
God forbid actors act, right? Here we go again.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They even tried to dox somebody saying he was, let's just put it delicately, not nice to young people. in a very criminal way. So yeah, they were doing a whole bunch of crappy stuff. These people were
like a diddler.
Yeah. They were alleging that this person was. I kind of skipped over it when I did my video of it because like I really didn't want to drag somebody through the mud if they really don't deserve it.
Stuff.
Yeah.
So another quick short story to move past. This is another Marvel streaming news story. Here's the first images from Hawkeye. Yay! Did you guys know you wanted a Hawkeye show?
I forgot it was coming.
Yeah. Do I need one? No. Hawkeye, let's be honest, is the most boring out of all the Avengers, right? So
hold on, somebody's gonna try to fight you on this one, man. He's so great. He's so amazing. Look, I'm with you. He is of all the.
They have robbed him two or three times now of a really good death.
Yeah.
In Ultron and the two last Avengers movies were like the perfect times to set him up for some kind of,
but
meaningful
Kate
death.
Bishop was never popular, though. That's the thing. I don't understand why they're doing all these series for these like tragically unpopular characters.
Well, here, I'll give you a scenario. How about if you set up another Civil War and Hawkeye's death is what set it all off?
Yeah, I mean, you could
because the whole fact that he's not a superhero and you've got civilians involved in superhero business, that opens up a whole nother new avenue of the whole Civil War Act kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Comics Division, I have of the mind that these Disney shows that want to adapt less than popular characters have insulation because of who they choose, so you can't really critique that. But at the same time, we have seen Mulan get grossly represented. We've seen big studios, have to eat a shit sandwich this year. I just think with the way the tides are changing, and when we get further into the Warner Brothers stuff and how Christopher Nolan's going after him and calling him out for the HBO Max stuff, as we're seeing the entertainment landscape shift, my first take from all of this was they're going to have to shift into financially viable, big named things, because if things are so expensive, they're going to be more risk averse. So this is them being open to risk. They're trying these things. They're not going to.
Well, I think that part of the reason why they're doing it too is because these are Disney-owned properties. I mean, I don't think Kate Bishop was actually created by somebody under the original Marvel before Disney bought them. So it's the same thing like with Kamala Khan. All these characters that they're pushing right now are Disney-owned, and so there is no other rights that they have to pay out.
Yeah, so that's something Disney does not like to do.
Well, with Kate Bishop, she is from 2005. So
okay, well, regardless, like I do get what he's saying though, but
for Kamala Khan, I'm with you.
Yeah, but at the same time, we also have a situation with Hawkeye where this is probably a cheap show to produce.
Yeah.
True.
No, not a whole lot of visual effects because he doesn't have really superpowers, so to speak.
Well, this is perfect timing because they're sitting here promoting or getting everyone amped for the Hawkeye TV series. Over on that failing Avengers game, they're promoting the Kate Bishop DLC.
Yeah.
This is one of those situations where it's just hit after hit of bad decisions. This is what Marvel's been in 2020. There hasn't been a good Marvel decision all year. And I know people want to say, well, the Rona took them out of the theater. Yeah, but there are other choices. Come on, man. You can't blame everything on this year.
No, you can't. Well, but they're going to. They're going to blame all their failures on the Rona at this point.
Well, you do know Disney's going to be dropping a big announcement tomorrow, right?
No.
You guys haven't been hearing about this?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay. Well, that's what all this Spider-Man business is probably about.
Probably, and I guess they'll be announcing the Spider-Verse or something.
That's part of it, but like we've been talking about it now for a couple of weeks. Like they're going to announce a new tier on Disney Plus, or they're going to rebrand Hulu. They're going to basically be making like a Disney 18 Plus.
And it's probably going to be Hulu, I guess.
And what's going to happen is they're going to end up dropping like Black Widow or something on there to kick it off. And that's where they're going to put in Deadpool 3. That's where they're going to put all the more adult-oriented stuff and Fox and all that kind of stuff from. We have a feeling that's going to be a big part of the announcement tomorrow. And then, probably a good segue into the Spider-Man bit. As Mikey Sutton has been saying for a while and a couple other people, there's been tons and tons of rumors. And then I don't know if you guys saw this, but like I think it was what was it? Some foreign Twitter of Sony's accidentally dropped a tweet yesterday or the day before for like a few minutes, and then it got taken down, where they basically were boasting about having all three Spider-Man back together in one movie.
Yeah.
But what it sounds like right now, what we're hearing is everybody signed on except for Tobey Maguire. Like, he's the holdout right now. I don't know if you guys have been, I figured you were going to jump into this eventually. I didn't want to jump a gun, but yeah.
Yeah, look it. Let me read Taker 610 super chat, and then we'll start talking about it. So our friend Taker 610, thank you very much. He says, "Is the star of the Hawkeye show and Jeremy Renner?" Or it's the star of the Hawkeye show and Jeremy Renner. Yes, it's the star of the Hawkeye show. From Kendo Slice, Walker told me I have AIDS. Well, thank you, Kendo Slice. We do have buttons here on the channel. I've been slowly integrating them. As you can see, like when Mecha hit her 60,000 number, I wanted to press this one because I think it's funny. But nice. Okay, it's shown for you guys, but not for me. But I do have actual clips, but I had forgotten to trim this one down because I do have the...
And how you do?
But I don't have it edited right.
Yeah,
so I do have a Walker
you.
told me I have AIDS button. But I do have this one. This is for you, Kendo.
George Bush doesn't care about black people.
There you go.
The best part of that, though, is Mike Myers' response.
Just how he looks at him.
George Bush doesn't care about black people.
Did he just say what I think he said?
Oh, his face. I love Mike Myers. Just like, wow.
And you got one of the whitest fuckers in the world just standing there going,
Canadian.
Oh, shit.
Yep.
I'm fucking Wayne. Like, you can't get no whiter than that.
No.
But anyway, yeah. I'm so glad that Walker told Kendo he has. I knew the clip.
So, one more 16-bit mascot. Thank you very much. He says, "Hail, Jeff, Tom, Mecha, and Comics. Keep it real." That's all we know how to do here.
Yeah.
We try.
Oh, and you got a super sticker.
Yes, we got a nice SH Rebels 08. Thank you very much for your generous super chat, super sticker. Thank you very much, folks, for joining us each and every week. We ask one more thing: spread the word. Let everyone know that we're live right now. Some people say shadow ban. We just say, hey, let everyone know what's going on. It's Tuesday night. It's High Council time.
All right. So
Spider-Man. So today, let's start off with the first piece of news that actually caught a lot of people's attention. And then we'll try to build this story because there's entertainment right now. It's like a puzzle. They present you certain pieces, certain confirmations, certain things, and we can start to get a framework of what actually is happening. And that's the fun. It's not like trying to make up Snoke theories and then getting upset if your terrible movie didn't have a theory fans wanted. It's, just trying to play Detective Inspector Gadget, if you will. So today we had some official confirmation. Spider-Man 3, Alfred Molina returning as Dr. Octopus. Now, before we get into anyone's opinions, I'd like everyone's opinion on this, starting with you, Comics Division. Is it a little odd that they're just calling this Spider-Man 3? Are you not having flashbacks to the real film Spider-Man 3?
Yeah. It's kind of weird, I'd have to say. I'd like to see what comes out of this. It has to be a Spider-Verse thing. Why would they be pulling in all these different actors from the previous films into one? So it's cool to see him back, man.
I got to remind everybody, this is going to start off in Doctor Strange 2. Don't forget that.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that's right.
Which is great because it all brings it back to Sam Raimi, which is
what I brought up like 6-7 months ago. Yeah,
who's tried to direct this? Is it Raimi or is it somebody else?
No, I think what's his face is still doing the Spider-Man
right?
movie. But yeah, that's what I brought up to Andre months back. I was like, dude, you're not going to bring Sam Raimi in to just direct a Doctor Strange movie and not connect it somehow with Spider-Man. And he goes, you're probably right. But then up until today was the first day he brought it up again. Like, yeah, because that's what I said back then. It's like, you're not going to pull Sam Raimi into this without there being some reason behind this. And if you go back and trace this back, I think this all starts back when Disney and Sony made their new deal.
Back in 2016? Or no, 2015, right?
No, the newest version of it.
Oh, last year.
Yeah, remember when it was like dead, and then it was alive, then it was dead again, and then, we finally reached the deal. It's like, well, yeah, it's kind of in your best
I think
interest
this is
too.
the result of the deal, yes. I think we're finally seeing the fruit. But anyway, continue, Comics. I didn't mean to interrupt. But yeah, I just wanted to remind everybody that I think Doctor Strange is a big part of this.
No, that would totally make sense. And I completely forgot Raimi was directing that too. But yeah, I'm guessing it all ties in with the Spider-Verse crap that Slott put out.
Okay, so as a comic guy, and yes, I'm going to ask Tom and Mecca the same question in just a moment, but as a comic guy, what where does the Spider-Verse fit to you? Because unlike most people, I'd assume both of us knew the Spider-Verse storyline when it first dropped from Marvel, before they ever made a film, before they ever did the toys and all this other stuff, before the speculation. So are you a fan of the story, and do you like how it's been executed in other media forms?
I read it, and it's by Dan Slott, so my immediate response is no, I did not like it because it was Dan Slott. There was some interesting stuff that I that kind of did come out of it though, but I mean, for the most part, this is a prime example of diluting your brand. This is one of the biggest issues that Marvel is guilty of, is going and creating all these different Spider people, and now it makes Peter Parker not special. And that's kind of how I feel about this too. It's like, yeah, we have these 3 different versions of Spider-Man, and for what it's worth, I enjoyed all 3 different versions, even though I really like Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man, but I hate the movies. They're completely terrible. Yeah, it's a mess, man. This is also the issue when you reboot a franchise like multiple times in under 20 years at this point. I guess really under 10. Because when did Spider-Man 3 come out?
2007?
Yeah.
There we go. Are we back?
Yeah, we're back.
Yeah.
Okay.
What'd you do, dip out?
Yeah, the internet here dropped. Sorry.
Oh, no, we were here. We were still going. We were keeping it going for you.
Oh, thank you.
I had no idea you had issues. That's crazy.
No, bouncing off of what comics said, I'm not a huge fan of the whole multiverse thing, but what I am a fan of is seeing a lot of classic actors back on the big screen. You know what I mean? Or at least back on screen together doing some of these roles that were, pretty enjoyable for the most part. The only one that I was like, meh, on was Jamie Foxx. And I could give or take Andrew Garfield as far as Spider-Man goes, but like, yeah, you give me Tobey Maguire, Kristen Dunst, I'm like, meh, on too. But
Tobey was a great Peter Parker. Garfield was a great Spider-Man, but not Peter Parker. And the new guy is Spider-Boy.
Yeah, to me,
see,
I actually think Tobey Maguire was probably the best out of the 3.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm more excited to see all these actors come back than I am the actual multiverse aspect of it.
No, I hear you. I'm right there with you.
Yeah, because I enjoy not the meta-ness, but I like film production more than I like whatever in-universe stories they make up for half of this shit. So to me, I'm on Tom's side where I like that the old classic stuff's coming back, but I don't like multiverse stuff because it doesn't feel like Marvel traditionally. It feels like a very DC trope that they adopted.
Yeah, it kind of is. I mean, and they've done a lot of screwy things with Spider-Man over the years, like the Clone Saga and whatnot. And also, I did see the Dan Slott documentary on 616, and I know there was a lot of controversy about it. And it's like, I think they just kind of hyped everything up for TV, so to speak.
I'm just going to go on record again, even though I've said this very publicly. Dan Slott is the worst Spider-Man writer.
He's scum. Yes.
And I don't even care about his personal politics or any of his douchiness. He's done more damage to the character. That's irreversible because some elements are successful. Some elements are just abject failures. And most of them are forgettable. So we've been stuck with this gray muck of Spider-Man for the better part of a decade, over a decade at this point. When did he take over comics?
He wrote for like 10 years. So, and when did he stop? Was it 2019?
Yep.
2018.
Yeah, right here. It says on April 5th, take a guided tour through Dan Slott's decade-long run.
Well, the issue, to a degree, I can forgive someone being a bad writer or just not being a good mix for the character. What the main issue, one of the biggest issues I have with Slott is the fact that he actually goes after his fans. He intentionally does stuff.
Yeah, that's bad.
In the comic book to piss off the reader, and that's the thing that to me is really unforgivable. I mean, you can have a bad run, and you can have people that are unhappy with the run, but that doesn't necessarily make me hate the writer. Yeah. But yeah, he's like legit a terrible person.
But to go off of the super chat here, to bounce into it anyway, I should say, like, yeah, I was not a big fan of the Spider-Verse movie, sue me. But part of that is I'm not a fan of redundant characters, and I felt like AJ Journeyman says in this super chat he's asking here. Go ahead and if you want to read that one, Jeff.
He says, since we're talking of Spider-Man, I'm convinced the mainstream exposure of Miles Morales is a long-winded plan to retire Peter Parker.
It is.
For good. Agreed?
It is.
Yeah, and
I
that's
agree.
my problem with the character is he's too much like Peter Parker to where they changed the character in the comics so he wasn't so much like Peter, and then they actually went against that and made him more again like Peter Parker in the movie. And to me, it's like, yeah, it's this replacing deal, and I don't like it.
They were doing the comic too for a bit, and it's exactly what they're trying to lead up to. They're trying to bolster the popularity of the characters so they can have their more diverse Spider-Man.
But Mecca, I can't remember. Did you see the Spider-Verse movie or not? I can't remember.
The cartoon one?
Yeah.
No.
But we didn't get to ask you how you feel about this whole multiverse stuff.
I don't remember the question.
Well, the first question was,
Yeah.
do you find it weird that the phrase Spider-Man 3 is used as the title for this movie? Because for years, for 13 years, I can't count. For 13 years, Spider-Man 3 has just been this black mark in quotations on the Spider-Man brand.
Yeah.
But it's funny how
I don't think that's going to be the title, but
No,
Well,
I
don't
think
think
you're gonna
it's
have
the
another
title.
final title, probably.
But I think it's so. But the thing is, like, the working title is the title of another film, and it's so bizarre to try to get excited because they keep telling me Spider-Man 3 features this. I'm like, no, Spider-Man 3 features Topher Grace and Thomas Hayden Church and Bryce Dallas Howard. I don't know what this film is, so I just was having cognitive dissonance being told.
well,
to get
Thomas
hyped up
Hayden
for a
Church
movie.
is back too, from what I heard.
And Collider today is reporting that who was it? Emma Stone, Andrew Garfield, and Kirsten Dunst and Tobey Maguire. That's what Collider.
Well, they said Tobey Maguire is still in negotiation, but yeah.
So this is really interesting / confusing because this is a precedent that we've never set before, so it's kind of exciting. But the reason I kept asking about the comics question was because we've seen this story played out. This is a new story in quotations from, in the greater scheme of things. Classic Marvel, we're talking, I guess classic Marvel, you could throw Civil War in there, but there are very few stories post 2000 that are like classic Marvel. This story, no, it's definitely not. But
No, totally not.
It's been done so much. And here's the thing, comics. Tell me if you've ever experienced this, because I'm a big Spider-Man fan, and there's these weird sects in Spider-Man fandom where there's the guys that have been reading the books since Ditko drew it, so they're the old guard.
Right.
Then you got the guys that came in later, liked it, and then just kind of keep Spider-Man as this thing. And there's people like me that grew up in the 90s but like to go back and watch it all. But I've been seeing this newer push in Spider-Man fandom to like excise big parts of the character because the newer, cooler version doesn't feature it, and Marvel seems to be following suit. And I hate that push because, if you follow the merchandise, and the merchandise usually dictates what's popular, there's this push for Miles Morales, Spider-Gwen, Peter B. Parker, all these Into the Spider-Verse characters and all these things so many years down the road. And I feel like, yes, the story worked for the film, but I feel like a lot of the hype is engineered with Spider-Verse and Miles Morales, where there's a reason why he's a PS5 launch title. There's a reason why they're
but go out there and say that you didn't like Spider-Verse or call it woke and see what happens.
What are they going to say to me? I'm not white, so
There are people that will jump down your fucking throat, though. I have a fucking
Tom,
thing that just keeps going off still from months back.
But you know the difference between me and all this? I don't give a shit. If they don't like my take on it, tough shit.
Well,
Like,
neither do I,
care.
but I'm still making a point that for some reason this Spider-Verse did strike a chord with people.
Okay, I'm trying to make the same point. There's a certain sect of Spider-Man fandom that wants the most basic, flashy bullshit, and they'll you could say they'll pay, but I don't know.
Well, they don't want the complex storytelling that comes out of Spider-Man anymore, which is kind of the issue. Like me growing up, my introduction to the Spider-Man TV, to Spider-Man was the 70s cartoon, which was very well done for the time. And then, I got into the books when I was in college. I honestly ended up becoming a bit more of a Venom fan than Spider-Man. But Spider-Man, I still end up going back to. And the thing that is the reason why he's popular is because he really is an everyman. He has a day job. He has people he's taking care of. There's crap that's going on in his life that we can all relate to. And it's the reason why he is such a popular character. And the problem is that Marvel has been trying to go and replicate that formula with Carol Danvers. It fails because nobody likes her. They write her terrible. They don't write her as an everyman. They write her as this very kind of bland, unlikable individual that makes very, very bad decisions. And Civil War 2 is a perfectly good example of that. So it's the same thing like with Ms. Marvel. They're trying to make her like another version of Peter Parker, where she's like a big fangirl of the Avengers. And to a degree, it was kind of cute, but eventually it just kind of wears off because the character is very safe. And then you have Miles Morales. So they're trying to make him quirky like, Spider-Man. But the issue is, they're lacking that kind of relatability. And the thing is, when you try to force a character to be popular, it never works. Spider-Man is popular because people relate to the character. They relate to his struggle. They relate to the obstacles he has to go, overcome. And I think a lot of that is because of the people who written them, throughout the 60s all the way to the 90s. And then you get people like Slott, and it's like Slott just craps all over the character. He's more interested in making Doc Ock Spider-Man than he was actually writing Peter Parker. And he does a lot of these things with the character. And it's the reason why he failed so miserably is because he doesn't want to write Spider-Man. He wants to write somebody else as Spider-Man.
Right. And
so bizarre because it was already great the way it was. And who was the writer before Dan Slott? Like, was it
Didio or...
No, he was a DC guy.
Or not Didio. Who am I thinking of? Ramita.
Oh, he's an old school artist.
Junior, though. Junior.
Artist.
He was artist. Oh, writer.
Yeah.
God, who was writing it before that? I can't remember now. But no, you guys are right. I mean, Spider-Man transcended the character as far as the comic book pages go, way before, and even beyond its creator. Like I've seen there's a video out there. I don't know if you guys saw it, but where Stan Lee's arguing with a fan about what Spider-Man represents. And I mean, I feel like the fan's almost more right, because it kind of goes to what you guys were just saying, and you were saying too, Jeff, is that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Yes. And that was kind of the argument that the fan was making. And I believe that the fan was even black, and he was making the point because, Stan likes to say, well, the great thing about Spider-Man is it can be anybody under the mask. It can be a black kid. It can be a Italian kid. It can be any kid at all, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, yeah, but Stan, you're missing the big point is it doesn't matter what color Peter Parker is. We all relate to his plight. We all relate to who he is because at some point in our lives, we're all a Peter Parker.
Yes.
We all have, that point where we get to that point where we're not quite kids. We're on the verge of adulthood, and we see this world of responsibility that's in front of us. And then on top of it, you have this whole other responsibility dropped on top of you. Whatever have you in your life, is the allegory for the spider powers, right? Mm-hmm. Put in your talent, whatever it is, your talent in life, and everybody can relate to that. Doesn't matter what color you are. Doesn't matter what background you are.
Exactly.
Even
that's
if
why we're going to make him black.
Yeah, and that's why we're just going to make him black. And that's my problem with Miles Morales and a lot of these characters, because they're even worse than some of the old like Supergirl, Superboy type stuff, where it was just a either a girl version or another, just slap the label on it and it'll sell just because it's the same thing, only it's a boy or a girl young version. Like what you have here is an actual taking Peter Parker, changing his race, and then adding stereotypes. That's all they did. And people get so mad when I say that, but really sit down and explain Miles Morales to me without telling me anything that's the same as Peter Parker that isn't a stereotype of somebody that's, a young African-American kid or whatever, or a young Hispanic kid, which he's, half, which is another thing most people forget.
Bendis really likes race swapping people because he did the exact same thing with Iron Man, with Riri Williams. He did the exact same thing in Ultimate Spider-Man when they killed off Peter Parker and they replaced him with Miles Morales. And I remember when that was going on, and my comic shop was trying to get me to buy. I was like, nah, not interested.
My comic book shops try to do a couple things like that with recommending newer stuff, and I'm just like, I've already done my research. I'm not interested.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and I don't even think they realize that, like, even changing Peter Parker in that little bit takes away so much from who the character is. And we all have a different idea of kind of who Peter Parker is, and I think that's why there's a lot of infighting as far as, some people like the Tobey Maguire one. Some people like the Andrew Garfield one. Some people like the newer one. And then some people say, oh, the only one I can go with is the 90s cartoon version. We have these
it's
various...
funny, how influenced the 2002 the Raimi trilogy is from the cartoon. Like, the first appearance of him in the black suit is ripped from the cartoon, not the comic book, because Spider-Man gets that alternate suit, that black costume on another planet. And then he comes back through a wormhole. That thing where he hangs from the building and looks at his reflection and the lightning strikes, and it's the other suit in Venom. That's all from the cartoon, created for that.
That's probably because that was where Raimi's only influence was from on that. Because if you look at the first two movies, sorry, comics, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. But like Raimi was like, you know where his influence came from Spider-Man. He didn't know anything other than the original 60s run. Like that was his, when growing up as a kid. Like after that, he didn't keep up with Spider-Man. That's why he wasn't a Venom fan.
Well, to be fair, in his defense, though, Spider-Man didn't evolve that much until Venom. And
that's what I'm saying. Like the modern stuff was not his bag.
Well, yeah, because let's be fair, when Sam Raimi, pieced out from Spider-Man, 1981 is Evil Dead. 1988 is when Venom first appears. I mean, this dude had made multiple big hits. I could understand why he would have, pieced out from the Spider-Man timeline. And that's the thing, though. There are only, and I say this as a 90s kid, we're looking back at certain elements from the 90s through these 90s kids' glasses. Yeah, Venom's fine. He's a good character to a point. If you want to go evolve or adapt everything of Venom, Planet Venom, all this other crap with every symbiote, separation anxiety, all that shit. Look, just because it's cool and looks like Venom doesn't mean it's going to be amazing.
I agree with that. It's the same with any character, really.
Well, Sam Raimi really picked, and Jesse made an excellent point today. Earlier, we were talking about Spider-Man films because we talked about Alfred Molina coming back. All the best villains from the Spider-Man trilogy that Sam Raimi made, it's not about being, the classic and iconic. Yes, that comes with it. But all the great Spider-Man villains are if Peter Parker was slightly different, if he went more in one way. So if Norman Osborn was this rich corporate, crazy scientist who experimented on himself, he didn't have the ethics that Peter Parker would have. Doc Ock, same thing. He used himself as an experiment.
Well, Raimi added a third dimension to the characters is what he did.
Yeah, if they would have gone that route with Kurt Connors as the Lizard in Spider-Man 3, we wouldn't have what we have with the MCU and all this other shit. So I guess you could say if you're into that, you're very happy that Spider-Man 3 and the universe went the way it did. But I don't think they understood exactly what made those Raimi movies work in the way they did.
Yeah,
this coming back is why I'm a little like, I'm excited, I'm interested, but are they actually going to get the right feel? Because we have been burned, folks.
Probably not.
Pessimistic. Look at The Force Awakens.
Again, like I said, here's the thing. Raimi is not somebody who's going to come in and allow somebody like Kevin Feige to push him around. You know what I mean? Like, he's known Kevin Feige since the kid was just getting fucking coffee. Like, I have a feeling they probably have a good relationship because they probably both understand Spider-Man. From my recollection, Venom was something that was heavily pushed by Avi Arad. I think that they brought him in for a reason, and that is to get, because I'm sure they hear a lot of what we say. I do believe Kevin Feige does listen, because I got to keep reminding people, Captain Marvel wasn't his baby. That was Bob Iger's baby. His baby was Black Panther. That was the thing he was trying to get off the ground for, over a decade. And that's where I think he backed off a little bit on Captain Marvel after he felt the pushback. But what I'm saying to that is I feel like I'm sure he also heard a lot of the older fans and some of the other fans saying, look, we don't like this new Spider-Man. We see all you've done is take Miles Morales' friends and dropped them into Peter Parker's world.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what Ned is.
And that's the thing is that wasn't necessarily their option. I have a feeling that our reporting on that was correct with Sony, the Sony deal at that time. And now I think that the new Sony deal has opened things up a little bit. So I feel like that's where I feel like, and again, I could be wrong, but I feel like Kevin Feige is trying to bring in the things that he knows the fans like. And he knows Sam Raimi understood Spider-Man because he took these characters that were two-dimensional on a comic book page, and he took those versions that we loved from the original versions that are hammy. And if you look, if he did it verbatim, it'd almost be like we were watching the 60s Batman series, right? But what Raimi did that nobody else had done other than Singer at that time, really to a point, is make these characters human and give them human sides. Like, I mean, he made Doc Ock one of the greatest villains of all time in Spider-Man 2.
Well, not just that. Probably one of the best characters to come out of that series too was Sandman. I mean, as much as the third movie is garbage,
the only thing I don't like, is him being part of Uncle Ben's death. But outside of that,
I don't remember if they monkey with that, and even in the comics at some point too. It's like I don't remember if that was related or not. But yeah, but they did such a great job with making that villain sympathetic. It's like you completely ruined it by stuffing in a bunch of other villains as well. And this is like some of the things that happened back in the 90s with the Batman stuff, is that these movies started suffering from over villainization, where they wanted to throw in, Mr. Freeze and Two-Face and, whoever. It's been a while
and I get that kind of takes us back to Jeff's original question in a way. And honestly, that's where I was bringing up Doctor Strange, is I think they're going to spread this out a bit. I don't think that the full team of Spider-Men and all these villains are going to be a major part of the story. Like, I really feel like they're going to be a result of in the background, and then they're going to kind of fester into Spider-Man 3, and it's going to kind of result into a climax. Where you have all three Spider-Man fighting together against all these villains.
Well, I don't know, man. This is where like a TV series probably works better, because you have the ability you could do the Sinister Six in a TV format more so than probably a movie, because you don't have enough time to let all these characters breathe and have their moment.
But it's funny you bring that up, comics, because that's what I was going to say, is I think that's what they're doing here. They're creating a Sinister Six without us having to have a bunch of Spider-Man movies to set them up. We already know this Doc Ock. We already know the Electro that's coming in. We already know the Sandman that's coming in, because they supposedly signed Thomas Hayden or whatever his name is. Thomas Hayden Church. Yeah. So we know all these versions of these villains. We already have Michael Keaton in there as a Vulture. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have all these established villains already. Mysterio. I have a feeling that's the quick ticket to building a Sinister Six without having to go through all the things you're talking about, perhaps.
Which kind of sucks, because
it does.
Like I said, all the time in comics, what's up with this. If you read the books, yes, the Sinister Six and these characters, Hollywood has this obsession with the buzzword characters. They think, Sinister Six means something to people. They'll get excited over that, so they're going to push for it, no matter the quality of it. Look, a couple years ago, Suicide Squad meant the same value financially as the word Sinister Six, and we saw the result. Now, I'm not going to be cynical and say it's going to be the same thing, and I see definitely what you're talking about. The thought I had earlier, too, was, what about a new status quo? Everybody bitches about Zendaya and all these terrible things. What if this is like a backdoor way to reset this shit and never admit fault?
Yeah,
that could be a way too, to rebring in some other elements, because that's what I was saying, is that would actually support our reporting that they were forced to use the 25% different versions of all these characters in the Marvel universe because of the original Sony deal. Like, that's what I'm saying, is like, this may have opened the door for other things, because we also have Venom and Morbius. I forgot all about too.
Yeah, Morbius was supposed to have been out by now.
Oh, yeah. What happened?
And a new trailer. Well, it's still coming. A new trailer dropped yesterday or the day before in Japan or something like that. Has a little bit of new footage, but otherwise it's still the same basic trailer.
They got what's his name to play Morbius?
Jared Leto.
Jared Leto. Thank you.
But we already know there was the Michael Keaton bit in there. And there was the thing that kind of set me off and kind of set me down the road of either bringing Raimi in, what the hell's going on here? You've got Spider-Man painted in the background of Morbius, but it's not the MCU Spider-Man, it's Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. So what's the deal here? You know what I mean? Like, they're setting something up.
Well, let's read this official press release and we'll talk about it more. Just, folks, you always want to follow the confirmation stories and stuff out there. That's why people have joked about future Star Wars content for years, because, well, it never came true. So it's all hands on deck as Otto Octavius returns for Spider-Man 3. Alfred Molina is putting his metal arms back on to reprise his role as the villainous Dr. Octopus, sources tell the Hollywood Reporter. So that's enough right there. I don't really need any of their take. I've seen the movie more than them. I have a question, random thought. Do you think... Okay, so we talk about how important the feeling of a film is. Do you think they'll actually take the steps to reproduce Doc Ock the way they did back in 2003 when they were making it for 2004? Will they bring back the puppetry, or do you think they're going to just say, technology's advanced and everything is going to have this slight different look. So you'll go watch this film. You'll see Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man, Kirsten Dunst, all this stuff. The suit will look essentially the same, but there's going to be these little things that you just can't piece together. Do you think they'll take the extra steps and realize that this could be one of these, if done right, this could be one of the all-time greats crossovers? Or do you think they'll just cheap out and make a regular Sony movie and it'll just feel off, and we'll be told that we're crazy and wrong because it just doesn't feel the right way?
Well, it's 2020. I expect garbage at this point.
Well, I would say this. I think that's a big reason why they're bringing in Raimi. I don't think Kevin Feige is stupid. I mean, even okay, let's break this down. The man has a track record. Like if you give him a batting average, motherfucker is hitting like 800, 900, right? Like Captain Marvel and a couple of doozy films are his only real bad checks against him, right?
Well, but
Everything
it did
else,
make $1 billion though.
It doesn't matter. Like my point is this though. Even if you mark that against him, there's nobody else in Hollywood that has a track record like this fucking guy. And he knows what he's doing. And I guarantee you, he saw Sam Raimi, talked to him, said, this is what I want to do. Raimi's like, yeah, that sounds exciting. So he brought him in for a reason. And that reason is probably, like you're saying, Jeff, to give us that feeling we had in those old Spider-Man movies.
Well, here's the thing too, Tom, and I'm pretty sure you know this, that the days of the $1 billion box office draw is over.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I'm sure we'll get into that here in a little bit.
This is going to be one of those shows. So yeah, but comics, please elaborate a little more what you meant by that. I mean, I know we'll talk about HBO Max and stuff, but we're on superhero films. Let's, talk about it in that way.
Well, yeah, I think the most obvious thing is the coup of kind of, severely gimped movie theaters at the moment. And even if you do release it and it wasn't going to a streaming service, there just isn't the confidence currently for people to want to go out to the theaters because of the coup. I mean, everyone's been, I don't want to say fear-mongered to death, but yeah, I mean, you just don't have people that are going to have the confidence. I mean, I went like opening weekend to go see Tenet, and there was like 3 people in the theater.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it goes.
Now we also have it, things dropping on streaming currently, and it was funny because before we all met up, I was talking to my wife. We're talking about HBO Max and the whole thing with the fact that they're going to be dropping their entire 2021 movie catalog on streaming at the same time as they're releasing it in theaters. And she's like, it's like, why do people go to theaters now? It's like, when most people have a really nice setup, a big screen TV, surround sound system, what's the point to going to a theater? And I mentioned, well, here's the movie going experience. She's like, yeah, true. But it's like, cinemas have been slowly dying over the last 20 years. So it's
but comics, that's that argument and that train of thought that always gets levied against whatever the current form of entertainment technology is to jump to the next one. It's like, well, physical's been dead since DVD. It's like, really? We have 2 formats post DVD and 4K
if you count
movie.
3D Blu-ray.
That's true. 3. So you had 3 format changes, and they keep coming out, and people still buy physical discs. I know stores want to shrink their stock and all of this stuff, but there's something to be said. Tom, you're a video guy. You get better picture and audio from a disc than you do streaming. We're not ready.
I completely agree with you. I mean, the fact that people can go and make changes to it on a streaming service, and that's kind of the real danger there. I don't know. I don't think the theaters are going to completely 100% go away, but I do think they are going to be more of a specialty thing, more like how we have vinyl shops.
Well, there's a more nuanced conversation to be had on this that I think we'll have in a little bit here, but to just jump off of what you guys are saying into this whole thing, the studio's still got to bank on theaters eventually sticking around and being around to help promote this. If not, the whole thing is going to streaming and PVOD, and it's going to be premium stuff, and that's going to amortize the cost of all these bigger movies. Because this Spider-Man movie, it's going to have a hefty price tag. I can see that already.
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest issues with movies these days is the overinflated budgets. And it's like, not everything needs to have an in-game level budget. And I think that kills a lot of creativity. You get very kind of corporate feeling movies. And that's one of the biggest issues I have with Marvel these days is how
they're all homogenous.
Yeah, they're overly homogenous. They're not very creative. It's like when I saw Ant-Man, it's like, oh, it's Iron Man again, except with a guy that shrinks.
The mistake they're making, though, with Spider-Man,
I disagree. A little
Spider-Man
about that,
is
but
the perfect low-budget hero. You don't need $250 million to make a great Spider-Man film. You need a great script. What does that cost? Well, somebody can tell me that exact answer. But you don't need to have Spider-Man fight time-traveling demons or intergalactic pirates or douchebags with, flying cars. Like, all he needs to do is be in New York City. You can film anywhere and make it look like New York City.
He's a street level, character. I mean, he's street level hero. There we go. That's the word I was looking
I think
for.
that's another reason why Raimi's been brought into the mix, because you got an old school guy who knows how to do shit on a budget. Like, if anybody knows how to do anything on a shoestring, it's Raimi.
It's the same issue with Batman, right? I mean, Batman is supposed to be a street level hero.
And he's another one that should be easy. Yeah,
he should be easy to do, but they always overcomplicate it. So I want to hear what your thoughts are about me saying that Ant-Man was a repeat of Iron Man, because if you look at it plot for plot point, it's the same movie.
To a point, you're not totally wrong as far as like I will agree with you. It has the typical superhero buildups, which Ant-Man does, which Ant-Man is similar to Superman and Batman in that respect. But what Ant-Man I feel like is different, and I feel like some people overlook, and again, it's all subjective and to a point, but I feel like a lot of the Marvel movies up to a point were really good at changing, like feeling like I'm watching a Marvel movie, but it's in a new genre. Like kind of like how Winter Soldier felt like a political thriller.
Oh no, I mean,
Ant-Man to me felt like a comedy heist movie, as opposed to a typical, what we were getting before.
But if you actually look at the plot points between the two movies, they're very
I'm not
similar.
going to disagree with that. But you all, there's also an argument I believe to be made in just the typical hero, the hero's journey trope in all superhero movies. Like they're all based in the same similar Superman kind of background. You know what I mean? Like there's only like so many, either you have a hero from another planet or a hero who got some kind of superpowers from either science or some kind of scientific means, like an outfit,
or there's usually like a tragedy involved, and it's like
exactly. And that's where I say, like, even Iron Man, I would sit there and I agree that Iron Man's more of a ripoff of Batman than anything, especially down to the fact that he's
about the
playboy.
Characters being a ripoff. I'm actually
no. But I mean, even in their story, because if you look at like even the story setup is what I'm saying, because you have a playboy millionaire who uses his money as an advantage to fight crime.
Yeah, and the same thing with Green Arrow.
Exactly. So like, there's always this kind of like typical tropes in a lot of these superhero movies. But again, I do understand there is a Marvel formula in quotations that really started to rear its head in the latter films.
Oh,
I do totally understand where people are coming from, though. I'm not gonna disagree with you there. But I do feel like earlier on they did a pretty good job of, like, and then Guardians of the Galaxy is another great. It's a sci-fi comedy. Like you got a different genre almost every time until you get to the more Avengers type movies. But yeah,
that's fair. I think that's something that was formulated a little later on, because for as much as I enjoy Phase 1, those films have a sameness there's a charm to it because it's new, but they are very much one type of film. I think Phase 2 is when you get into that. And that's the beauty of Marvel, because you have the overarching Marvel Cinematic Universe, but you have these smaller things. And I don't think they've taken enough risks personally, because
I agree with you for sure.
That brand has so much power behind it still.
No, you're right.
About how this year broke whatever, but the Marvel brand still brings in money. I mean, look, if people are online, $800, you can either get yourself a PlayStation 5 on eBay, or for that same $800, you can get yourself the new action figure set of the Eternals. Apparently somebody broke street date and people want to bid that up on eBay, but I hate to say it, but we're getting to the point where the Marvel brand, yes, it means a lot, but it doesn't mean guaranteed quality or guaranteed success anymore.
Absolutely.
And I think that when the general public realizes that Marvel's armor is not impenetrable, then people will start to look elsewhere and Marvel will start to scramble, and then we'll start to see this shift.
Well, I think that's the big point, is people need to understand Marvel's not the only kid on the block. And Marvel does a certain thing a certain way, and they do it good. And again, like, I will argue that there really is only two basic superhero movies. There's basically your Donner Superman type movie, and there's a Batman type movie. And it's real easy to explain. You have the straightforward, we're going to tell the hero's origin story, how they became the hero, give them, a big climax and a movie. Or the Batman one, where you kind of tell it in kind of reverse order, kind of like, oh, we've got the hero, we're going to tell his background, but we're going to keep him dark and mysterious.
Like they did with Deadpool.
Yeah, exactly. Like, again, if you kind of put every superhero movie we've ever gotten up to those two standards, there's either the Donner version or the Burton. Like, that's really all we gotten. Like, X-Men, a Donner. Easy.
She's on it.
Spider-Man, Donner. Easy. Iron Man is a bit more in the Batman vein. You can start, getting down the line and start to pick up the differences. And I do argue this there at this point, and I think that goes to your point, Jeff, is that in the superhero movie genre, they really need to learn to take more chances.
Oh,
because we do only really have those two styles right now, no matter how you really look at it.
Especially when it comes to superhero origins. I mean, I think by now everybody knows Spider-Man's origin, Batman's origins. We don't need to revisit. It's like I can get it where it's like you can just allude to it or have a flashback scene real quick to explain it. Hell, honestly, you don't even need that anymore. But everybody knows these origins for these characters. You can stop retelling it. And that was like the biggest problem I had with Amazing Spider-Man is that didn't we just get a Spider-Man origin with Tobey Maguire? Well, why are we retelling it again?
And that's where MCU decided not to, and then everybody accuses them. I'm glad
they did that.
Yeah, and everybody accuses them, though, of ignoring Uncle Ben, even though he is technically in the universe. But again, no, I did like that aspect.
All you have to do is refer to Uncle Ben,
And they have.
Yeah, that's all they really need to do. But yeah, it's like for God's sake, I don't need to see Uncle Ben die for the 500th
same
time.
thing with the Waynes, because I've made the argument that the Waynes have died more times on screen than Dracula, probably.
They have.
It's so sad too. They don't deserve it.
Because Dracula dies in almost every Dracula movie, folks.
Or Godzilla.
Or Godzilla, yeah, that's another one.
Now, Mecca, as someone who may not be as passionate about Spider-Man as I am, clearly, I can just say it. No one is going to be as passionate on this panel as I am about Spider-Man to a fault. But with all of this news, are you more interested in whatever this third Spider-Man Tom Holland film will be today after hearing all this stuff? Or are you less interested because it sounds like a bunch of convoluted bullshit?
I liked the Raimi ones, and I go back like with horror and stuff. I always liked Sam Raimi's stuff from the whole horror era, and bringing a lot of like those aspects. I'm interested to see what they do. I don't want it to be just and here's a cameo. Hey, remember this Spider-Man? Hey, remember this scene? I'm kind of concerned it's going to be a bunch of member berries and crap. But I'm curious. I'm really curious. I'm glad that we didn't get the one rumor that we were going to have where we were supposed to have a certain Captain People play off of Spider-Man to make her more likable. I'm glad that his movie isn't going to be ruined with her. So, at least so far, as far as we know.
I think member berries are fine as long as there's substance attached to those member berries.
Well, there's a difference between fan service and member berries. I think people need to kind of differentiate, because the two have almost become synonymous when I don't think they're the same thing. I think Mecca's bringing up a great point, and I think this also solidifies that I don't think Captain Marvel is going to be any part of the Spider-Man deal, because I believe this current deal only goes for 2 movies in the MCU, which would include the Doctor Strange and another Avenger movie, and then they have the Spider-Man movie, which will cross over. So,
okay, Mecca, sorry.
Oh, sorry. I think I'm more interested for the Doctor Strange movie, to be honest, because I'm less familiar with the character. I know less about him. I saw the movie, and I think that, like, as somebody who kind of comes into these almost blind for a lot of them, I kind of really liked that character, and I liked that movie probably more than a lot of the others. So I'm more excited to see what's going on with the Doctor Strange movie.
See, now there's a great example of one comics that did start off a lot like Iron Man.
I was mention that. I was going to say, to Tom's point, Doctor Strange is basically.
You got to admit, after that first bit where it's a lot like Iron Man, it does do its own thing.
No, it absolutely does. When I talk about just the character, I mean, you could definitely see where there's kind of these parallels, because they have very similar origin stories with some sort of tragic thing happens to them, and then they find some sort of discovery to help them through it and become a hero.
But yeah, that's one of the main superhero types, though, too.
Yeah, it's an archetype.
How great is it, though, that Sam Raimi's directing Doctor Strange 2? Because if we go back to Spider-Man 2, what Marvel hero is established existing in the world? Doctor Strange.
Yes.
So I think it's perfect where it's life imitating art. That's just a throwaway line in 2000.
I love that.
Not just that. I think he's like the perfect person to direct because it's Raimi. And it's like, if he takes some of those elements from like when he was directing Evil Dead and brings them in with Doctor Strange, because Doctor Strange is really kind of supposed to be this like very kind of psychedelic character, right? And, I mean, that's how they drew him back in the 70s and whatnot. And so if he can bring kind of the element to Doctor Strange, that would just be really amazing.
The Doctor Strange, I really like what Benedict Cumberbatch brings to the character. I know he's got this great range, almost better than anyone in the MCU. I don't know if he can be in something so weird that it's fun. You know what I mean? Like he's too proper, too British, too something. I don't know.
I think they kind of set that up a little bit in Infinity War and Endgame, maybe.
I think there's even still like a stiffness to like that. Like, have you guys read like older Doctor Strange, the Ditko, like for a guy that seemed like a square who all of a sudden seemed to drop acid and create these weird works of art, these weird visual planes? Like, I want to see Doctor Strange take it that weird. I know the shit in the first one was visually stunning and trippy and cool, but I think there's that next level of weird that Sam Raimi brings from his horror background.
Exactly.
But I just don't know if Benedict Cumberbatch fits that. Not because he's not talented, just because I think I don't know. It's like he can't
trust in the director, Jeff. I get what you're saying.
I think it all depends on the director.
And I think if Cumberbatch has it in him, Raimi will bring it out. That's what you bring in guys like that for.
Look how hilarious Evil Dead was. Evil Dead 2, especially.
Oh yeah. Evil Dead 2
or
is
Army of
fantastic.
Darkness, for fuck's sake.
Oh, God, yeah. I love that.
What? Okay,
I'm
everyone.
the good Ash, and you're the bad Ash.
What's everyone's favorite film in the series? Starting with you, Mecca. Favorite of the Evil Dead trilogy.
Got it backwards, actually.
Yeah, Army of Darkness is probably my favorite of the trilogy.
I'm kind of with Mecca, but I appreciate each and every one for different reasons.
Yeah. Two was probably like close second.
It's amazing.
For me, it's 2. I mean, I love Army of Darkness. I mean, it's just a fantastic movie, but come on, it's like the whole thing with Ash sawing his hand off with the chainsaw while maniacally laughing. I mean, you can't beat that.
Well, then again, I can't take away from the first one what they did with so little. Like, I mean, the fact that movie's shot on 16 millimeter, mostly on weekends, and just what they were able to accomplish without knowing what they were doing was phenomenal.
Well, on top of that too, like back in the late 80s, early 90s, there was such a huge controversy around Evil Dead, and it just a lot of people didn't get it. It's supposed to be campy and not taken serious. And I remember watching the news and they're showing these old people, Evil Dead 2, and they're like, "Oh my God, this is horrible." It's like you're showing it to old people, like people like legitimately in their 70s and 80s. It's like, of course they're going to react that way. Why would you? Well,
that was because Evil Dead got caught up in the video nasties deal over in the UK.
Yeah.
And even though it was one of the maybe 4 films on the list that didn't belong there, it helped that movie's persona.
Yeah, it really did.
Let's be real. Like, outside of Sam Raimi himself, going on to bigger, better things, if it wasn't for that, I don't know if we'd really think that much about it, to be honest with you. Does anyone
remember the fact that they rebooted Evil Dead?
Yeah, so
no. Well, yes and no. They're supposedly doing a sequel to it, but anyway, sorry. Go ahead, Jeff.
The messed up part was it wasn't that bad. It wasn't great, but I've seen most modern horror remakes, and I'd put that towards the top as least offensive. Rob Zombie's Halloween is dog shit, and that's at the bottom. Especially Rob Zombie's Halloween 2.
Well, Nightmare on Elm Street's got to be the absolute worst.
I'm going to go Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 because it's an offensively bad film outside of just shitting on the legacy of Michael Myers. It's just garbage across the board.
I would say right next to it is House of a Thousand Corpses. I did not like that movie. Especially with all the hype around it too, where they couldn't get it distributed and it was supposed to be so graphic and terrifying. I watched it. I was like, this is fucking boring. This is
if we're talking about Rob Zombie, yeah.
It was a repeat of Texas Chainsaw Massacre in a lot of ways.
Well, yeah,
that was Rob Zombie knows.
Well, that was proof that he should have done the Texas Chainsaw remake and let somebody else do Halloween.
Agreed.
But no, I feel like not enough shit gets dumped on that Nightmare on Elm Street remake though either. So
Tom, because nobody remembers it, Tom. That's why.
Dog shit. I mean, ugh.
Dude, I saw it in theaters
I
with
won't watch
Dion
it.
and Hillary. It was garbage back then, and it's garbage now.
Well, and people also give too much praise to that Friday the 13th remake. Speaking of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because to me,
Leatherface in that.
he was, because A, Jason does not take fucking prisoners, and B, since when does Jason have like this fucking lair under his fucking cabin? Like that's totally like that's all kinds of like Texas Chainsaw type of shit.
Did he also have a bat cave under there? Is that where Miles Morales?
Maybe he might, yeah. Aunt May cave.
Aunt May cave. I kind of feel
That
bad
has
for
all kinds
Jackie
of
or Haley because I'm
connotations.
pretty sure that Elm Street movie killed his career.
Yeah,
It
that's
killed
the
momentum
sad
for
part.
sure.
Because I'll tell you this right now, going into that whole deal, as big of a Freddy fan as I am, and I know Mecca knows how big of a Freddy fan I am.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was like, you're never going to convince me anybody but Robert Englund is Freddy Krueger.
Oh,
No
I
fucking
agree.
way. You can write the greatest Nightmare on Elm Street script I've ever seen, and unless it's Robert Englund, I'm just not going to buy it. And then they announced Rorschach is going to play Freddy Krueger. And I'm like, that scene from Watchmen just played in my head where he's like, don't forget, you're not in here with me. I'm not in here with you. You're in here with me. And it's like, okay, that's Freddy Krueger. I can buy that. Kelly Leak can do it. I think he can do it. So I was like, all right, okay, I can buy that. And then the movie has got to be one of the most atrocious fucking movies ever made. It's like you had the opportunity to give us the ultimate Nightmare on Elm Street, and what did you fucking do? You made one of the cheapest, shittiest fucking remakes I've ever seen in my life. It was so Michael Bay'd up. I almost have, like, I could sit here and have a
Was
whole
that actually
fucking...
Michael Bay that did that?
Well, he was one of the producers. Yeah, it was
Really?
his
Oh, go
fucking...
figure.
Like, Platinum Dunes, to me, is one of the worst things to... Like, people bitch about Bad Robot. Fuck, Platinum Dunes doesn't get enough bad rap, man. The
Yeah,
shit
but-
they've done to Nightmare on Elm Street, the shit they did to fucking Ninja Turtles, man, holy shit. Like,
Well,
they
I mean, you're-
destroyed my childhood.
It's about the sphere you work in and operate in, though, because we're a pop culture, sci-fi, whatever sphere. Platinum Dunes is done, yes. You said TMNT, but they did a lot of those horror remakes that have come and gone. Like, I'm with you. They're bad. They're offensive. They've caused brand damage. But I'm also one of those people, like Friday the 13th, that remake wasn't the worst Friday the 13th. I've seen shittier films.
I'd
Jason
almost
Goes to
rather
Hell?
watch Jason. I would rather watch Jason Goes to Hell.
I would rather watch the inside of my eyelids for 2 hours than Jason Goes to Hell. And we know the lady that's in that fucking movie. So
Oh, I
that's
know a
called
lot of
Sleeping
people,
Jeff.
but
No,
no, like
the lady in that movie went on to be like a fencing mom that we interact with.
no,
Like,
and that's cool. Like I
weird.
mean, I know the director and shit, but like, yeah, like I mean, it's like no, I actually will fight for Jason Goes to Hell before I will that fucking Friday the 13th remake. I'd rather watch Jason X than that Friday the 13th remake.
That movie's at least funny, all right? I mean,
Yeah,
the
that's
whole thing with like the holodeck where he's like trying to murder the co-eds is
The
is
one
funny.
thing I will say about Jason Goes to Hell is this. At least they tried something different. At least it wasn't the same fucking thing. And Adam was going with the absolute worst. Like, you got to imagine, this is what like it would have been like if Superman Lives would have happened. Because Adam was going by some of the worst notes from the producer you could ever get. This was as bad as like John Peters level notes. Like, I mean, his first note was, get that fucking hockey mask out of the movie. I don't care what you do, get that hockey mask out of the movie. How the fuck do you make a Friday the 13th movie without a hockey mask?
You make the first two.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what he basically did. He had to bring back in all the fucking family. And then he got stunted because he wasn't told until after he wrote his first draft that, oh, by the way, we don't own Tommy Jarvis or all these other characters. We just got Jason. So the main character kid was actually supposed to be Tommy Jarvis.
Oh.
And Jason's brother actually had a role in it, and it was like this whole thing, like the original. I would love to see the original script get turned into like a comic book.
Well, do you listen to that podcast, Greatest Movies Never Made?
I'm aware of it. I think I've heard like one or two of them, but yeah, like
I mean, Robert Meyer Burnett's on the first episode.
yeah, he's told us about it. I just never got a chance to check it. Like I don't have time to sleep, man. You know that.
Well, dude, I get, the one thing I'll say, well, I do enjoy their work. They do cover a lot of movies and stuff, but they did do one called Unmade Star Wars, and I usually don't say this, but we beat them to the punch. It was the exact same episode we did on the High Council with J.W. Rinsler, so wanted to give them a shout out. But they did all the Friday the 13th stuff. They have the 3D one, they have the other one, they have the Jason Goes to Hell, and all these other Friday the 13th that got unmade. I'm a fan enough of the franchise, but I'm also not blind to the franchise, if that makes sense.
No, right. And I totally get, and even Adam knows, you know, some of the issues with Jason Goes to Hell. Like, he's not oblivious to it, you know. But like, I think if you listen to our interviews with him, you totally understand the position he was in making this movie, and the way Sean Cunningham is the one who really, you got a guy. Yeah, he created the franchise to a point, but he had very little to nothing to do with the franchise throughout its lifetime, and then Sean Cunningham. Yeah. And then he decides he's going to, you know, after he gets the rights to it, he's going to, you know, bring Jason back and then fucking kill him. Like, that was all his choice, and he wanted to do that. Like, that, he fucking hated Jason with a passion.
I mean, I can understand having disdain for something you've created, especially when someone else takes the ball.
That's because he didn't really create it. That's why.
He ripped off John Carpenter, but
well, his whole thing he didn't do the Jason thing. His was the mom, and the whole thing
Victor Miller, right? He was
Victor Miller wrote all that stuff, and the Jason that we know came about in Friday the 13th 2 and 3, which Cunningham had nothing to do with. So he had nothing to do with that version of that character or what that franchise became. So he kind of just saw it as like, you know, well, I didn't make that, but I'm going to make it my legacy, you know, because that's kind of what Adam told us, basically, in so many words.
Oh, hey, the truth is better than fiction.
But yeah, you know, well, and Adam brought up a lot of great points. It's like, you can believe some of Sean's version of the story, but Adam's makes more sense. You know what I mean? It's like, he's like, you know, I'm a 21, 23 or whatever year old first time director. Who are you going to believe? That I went to Sean Cunningham and said, you know what? I'm going to take Jason out of the movie for the most of the movie. What do you think? And I got my way, or he told the director, take that fucking hockey mask out of the movie. I don't care what you do. Just do it. And obviously it's more believable that Sean Cunningham told him, get that fucking hockey mask out of the movie, because that's the movie we got. Yeah.
With the right budget, anybody can make a good Friday the 13th movie. I think with horror and comic books, and even Star Wars, it comes from overthinking. The simplified versions are the ones that are the most successful. Those are the ones that we all went and saw. Those are the ones that everyone went to copy. It's when the franchise becomes the franchise that it gets convoluted. That's when Laurie and Michael Myers are brother and sister, or Luke and Leia are brother and sister.
Oh, yeah.
With all these things, like, and if they could just boil it back down, not trying to make this person a brother or sister, trying to cross over this. And I hate to say it too, Friday the 13th is very guilty of this as a franchise, more so than almost any other horror franchise, where they got to tie in this and do that and try. Like, there's too much going on at times.
Well, I think Script Doctor honestly said it best. It's like, keep characters complicated and stories simple.
Oh yeah. That's totally true. And that's the thing, is Adam tried, and he admits, you know, he failed, but he tried on that level of trying to tie this character and all the loose storylines back together. He wanted to make the story much more important than it ended up being, but like, he wanted to have ties to the Evil Dead franchise, because like, his whole thing was, the reason Jason is what he is because his mom used the Book of the Dead to raise him from the dead.
See, but that's what I'm talking about when it gets too much. It's like, I get it, but you're fanning out right now. Like, that'd be like if I wrote a Spider-Man movie and I'm going to have Man Mountain Marco and 3 other things you've never heard of because I'm this like lore fan. It's like, I get it, but that's why these things get like tied up in a million different.
And it's still there. The Book of the Dead is in the movie.
Yeah, just like Freddy Krueger's glove is in Jason Goes to Hell. Like, I've seen the movie.
Yeah,
I'm not ripping on something.
And actually, that knife that they used to kill Jason was meant to be the knife from Evil Dead. They just couldn't get the knife. They got the Necronomicon though, but they couldn't get the knife.
God. I don't even think I've actually seen that movie.
Well, the only reason they couldn't get the knife is because it is directly tied to the movie. The Necronomicon, on the other hand, isn't something that's copyrighted or whatever.
No, it's not.
So, but like, they couldn't do an exact version of the knife. But that book in there is the book from Evil Dead 2.
I actually own,
I think it was from Greg Nicotero or somebody like that.
But probably. Yeah, I actually own several copies of the Necronomicon at one point.
I actually got one too from the DVD.
I remember that.
I got it like my first one was like back in the 80s when everyone was, you know, kind of talking about it. I think it was before the movie came out. I don't know. It's just goofy shit.
Hey, Mecca, I was thinking of you the other day because I was listening to a podcast and it brought up something that you had mentioned, Satanic Panic. So you remember all the Satanic Panic stuff. Did Evil Dead kind of get lumped into that too? Like, was that during the same era where people were always looking for, Satan in their oatmeal?
I don't remember them actually noticing it. I think it flew way too under the radar.
No, I think you're right. I don't remember that being brought up.
I think
either.
it caught on either end. I think the first movie came out just before, and the second movie came out right at the end of.
Yeah,
because if you remember The Golden Child, Jeff, that movie directly plays into the Satanic Panic.
Yeah, because the whole thing with obviously Ozzy Osbourne and heavy metal. And then you had the whole thing with D&D.
Yeah, and Dean Snyder come out and talked about it was kind of coming to a head.
The Dean Snyder stuff was later with the PMRC.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. But he was also involved with the whole.
He was, because
that's where he had to come out and say, "Look, I'm fucking Christian." It's like,
But it was pretty funny. But I remember the central focus of the Satanic Panic being on music and Dungeons and Dragons, not necessarily movies.
Well, because the thing I was wondering too, because it's part of a series and I'm not done with it, but I know Video Nasties is a UK thing.
Yes.
I've watched documentaries on the Video Nasties craze. I've looked into Tom. I would love to actually, anyone that's interested, we should just get together and talk about Video Nasties.
Oh, that would be a good one to get Andrew involved in from the In Search of documentaries, because we talked a lot about that stuff with him on
that stuff is so much
Evil
fun.
Dead screening we did. Yeah.
Our friend Shadow Fenrir 24 says, my buddies and I always talk about Lucasfilm, and I should do a Friday the 13th style Star Wars film for Boba Fett. It would be friggin' fantastic. I love that concept.
Go for it.
One thing, Shadow Fenrir, I think I remember your old name. I almost said it, but it doesn't matter anyway. What I like right now is we live in an era where the action film has become, we go to see it for the big kills. That's what the Friday the 13th franchise was. We go for the big kills. I wonder if there's a universe, because Star Wars isn't this kids' property that people think it's sacred and safe. It's got decapitations, amputations, immolations, possible incest, all these crazy things that have happened in Star Wars that people want to just gloss over and say it's a kids' film because it requires less thought. That's not the case.
They really tamed down
defense too.
A lot of that was a result of the mid 80s taming down of kids' entertainment.
Oh yeah.
And
what Reagan, right? They signed
the Reagan era, and because that's where look at GI Joe. They make sure nobody gets blowed up. He-Man never punches anybody. I mean,
all these people just never uses a sword.
No, he never punched anybody in the show. He punches rocks. He punches machines. He'll punch. I think he may have punched a monster once, but that's the most. I'm not even sure if he'd done that, but they were very meticulous, because that's the thing. They were under a microscope, and even though they were accused of all these things, they never did any of these things. And Rambo was the one that kind of brought it all to a head, even though Rambo had less violence than Transformers and G.I. Joe and any of the other shows.
So funny.
But because it was
Rambo,
because it was based on an R-rated film, the parents' organizations threw a fucking hissy fit, even though that cartoon was one of the biggest cartoons when it premiered, and not just in a kid demographic either. That was the thing, and then I think that was kind of a catalyst for things like the Batman animated series and things in the 90s, where they're like, look, we got more than kids watching this shit. So we got to start kind of adulting it up a little bit, and they found ways around that. But, again, you had this thing in the 80s, and that's why you had all the things at the end of the show where what did we learn today, Orko?
Yeah, the PSAs and whatnot. Remember, don't jump your pipe over a live electrical line.
So I think Star Wars got wrapped up in the Indiana Jones was a big reason for that. Because, Indiana Jones was a kid's shit until Temple of Doom, and then Temple of Doom and Gremlins, were responsible for PG-13.
I would not say that Indiana Jones was kids stuff.
Thank you. I'm so tired of that.
Well, not kids stuff in a sense it's directed at kids.
That movie is not directed to kids. Come on, dude. I mean,
it was definitely directed at families, though. Everything Spielberg did, especially Gremlins. Especially Gremlins was
melting faces. Come on.
That's completely where the stigma comes from, I think, is that if kids watched it and could watch it and gravitated towards it, then over time people just assumed, oh, it's just for kids. But that wasn't the case. You'd be watching the same stuff with your mom, your dad, your siblings, your grandparents even. You would be watching the same movies because they were for pretty much.
All right, here's my point though, is when I say that, I don't mean it was just for kids, but they directed it to kids, because you got Raiders of the Lost Ark, you got Jaws, trading cards, all this shit that's obviously not for adults.
Oh yeah, that is true. But
and that's my point. Is it was
rated R though?
that was my point. Is before that whole thing, as long as it was on that line of not being too over the line, nobody gave a shit.
I think a lot of it too is that as much as these movies were not made for kids, they had toy lines. Even in the 70s, when Alien came out, there was an Alien toy, and I know
and that's where the parents started getting involved, and that's what I'm getting to. That Reagan era where they got really overly. That's what I'm talking about. The parents got way too involved with entertainment, and Indiana Jones and Gremlins set off the PG-13 thing, and you had Alien. The parents groups got involved, and they shut that shit down. That's the reason why I think they didn't want to go with that, because you guys know they were going to do an Alien animated series.
No, I know they're doing a new comic, but
no, they totally had one ready to go. And
in the 90s.
Yep. Early 90s. It was called Alien. Yeah, the toy line was going to be. The toy line was the toy line for the series that never happened.
Yeah, I do remember that.
It was called Alien. Shit.
Apone was wait. Did Apone die in Aliens? No, he survived, right?
Apone?
Did Apone go? Because he was part of the toy line, which I assumed meant he was part. Because I had that.
Yeah,
thing,
Apone, I think Apone died.
Okay.
Well, I think they had a few characters that died were in the toy line, but
yeah.
The cartoon was meant to be more of a jump off of Aliens, because it was like Aliens something command or something. I can't remember the hell, whatever it was on the toys for years, and then they changed it. But they even had they had that for that fall for they had folders and T-shirts and other shit ready to go for school supplies and everything, but they decided not to do the show.
This is what I remember, though, of Alien. Like, growing up in the 90s, I had the Power Loader, I had Apone, and I had Hicks, and I had these toys. And then as a little older, I saw the movie Alien, and I was like, whoa, this is nothing like I remember. I didn't see the whole thing. I saw clips and shit of it, and I was like, this is not what I know. And I just instantly lost interest because I was like, whoa, it was a little too much.
Well, the thing is, they had that toy that came out for Alien back in the 70s, and that thing was really freaking cool.
Operation Aliens, that's what it was called.
Comics division. My mom dated a guy that worked at Kenner during that era, so she got access to all this shit. So that was one of the things she got to give to somebody in our family, because Kenner was based out of Cincinnati, and it was just the big chap alien or whatever they call it.
Yeah. I've got the newer version that they just did a couple of years back here of that, but yeah, that's pretty.
And the old one's so cool it's an engineering feat for the age that it came from.
No, absolutely, it absolutely was. I mean, that thing was an amazing toy, and I remember it's like, I want that. My parents were like, no.
So the one thing I wanted to bring up with Comics Division, you made the point that I always make, when it's funny how society always jumps on Temple of Doom as this movie that sets off this and that. I'm like, Raiders is more violent if you watch it, actually watch it, because everyone wants to jump to the heart-ripping scene.
To a point.
Dude, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones shoots people in the face at point-blank range, and they all have blood squibs. Other Indiana Jones films, they lower the violence. It's weird to say it. Like, Last Crusade, they have tons of action, but none of them are as violent as Raiders.
I think the tone was a big part of it too. The tone of Temple of Doom is much darker.
I disagree. The tone of Raiders is dour the entire time. Temple of Doom starts with a musical number and it ends on a high note. Raiders, they lose. Top Men.
You're not wrong there, but I think I'm talking about even just the cinematography aspect of it, the type of I don't know, just at that time. I mean, the way that movie was. And you got to take this from the perspective of Temple of Doom is actually my favorite Indiana Jones film. Okay.
Same here.
But that movie got so much blowback when it came out from not just the critics, but even fans. That was when people talk about people not liking Empire, that shit's not true. But there was a large swath of the fan base that was not on board with what Temple of Doom did to the franchise. They were like, this is not my Indiana. This is too dark for me.
All I know, man, is I remember watching Indiana Jones as a kid and being completely traumatized when everyone's faces started melting.
No, then we got an R rating because they had to put the column of fire over Belloc's head because it just exploded in the original.
Well, that was Steven Spielberg's life then, and that's why he pushed for a PG-13. Because almost every movie he made, he would constantly have to argue for a PG rating since Jaws on.
Oh yeah, and our Duke brings up the fact that Nazi got punched into a propeller. He had that blood spray that went everywhere.
The only movie you probably didn't have any trouble with was Close Encounters, I bet. And even that has some scarier moments in the earlier bits of the movie. But
you know what I love about Close Encounters, Tom, that I didn't get to bring up last week with Tom Conkle? The fact that he and George Lucas traded points because Lucas was convinced they would be more.
I actually did a video about that. Yeah. It's on Midnight's Edge, but it's buried and nobody watched it. But yeah, that's the bet that cost George Lucas $40 million.
Hey, well, you know what? Folks, the moral of that story is have faith in yourself.
That story gets darker than you'd think, though, because he gave a lot of his friends points on that movie except for one friend. Francis Ford Coppola.
Oh.
And Francis never lets him forget it, and a lot of people think it's because Francis hit on Marcia.
It's weird that Lucas wouldn't, because I'd heard that American Zoetrope lost so much money because of THX 1138.
Yeah, I know. Well, and then there's another bit to it too. Like the other part of it is the main reason is probably because Francis basically stole Apocalypse Now from George.
Ah.
I don't know if you know how that story goes, but him and John Milius wrote that movie for like 2 years.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and then like that was the movie he was going to direct after American Graffiti, and then Francis took it over.
Really? Wow.
Adam Wofford sends in an interesting super chat. He says, hey, back in the early 90s, I was shown a 15 minutes of a Dune cartoon with Paul and Cheney running around the desert, hiding and fighting aliens and learning lessons like G.I. Joe. But the guy told me networks all passed on it.
It was probably, based on the, was it based on the Lynch version of Dune? Because they did try to market the shit out of that movie, so I got to imagine. And the way things worked back then, by the time you would have seen that, if it was produced in like the late 80s, yeah, they probably were still trying to get that off the ground, I bet.
I just feel like Dune is the property that will never make the like franchise that people think it should have.
It may not, but I have a feeling this new version might be bigger than people think it was going to be.
Well, possibly, but we're not going to say a sequel at this point.
Never say never.
I'm not going to say never, but I just think because of the way the state the industry is and theaters, I just don't see a sequel.
Dune is a big driving force in HBO Max, you can bet we'll see a sequel.
How will we gauge that?
Yeah,
they will gauge it, and this is something I've been talking about for the last couple weeks. And I mean, I know I talked a little bit about it here, but more so on the morning show. But like, yeah, my source has been feeding me info on this whole deal up to this last week about all the shit that was going on, and Dune was something that was brought up, and yeah, I knew it was coming. And even though it broke everybody's heart, I said I know that's what HBO Max is going to do, because they have no cares right now about the theaters. It's not about making any money on these movies. It's about driving people into HBO Max. And I explained why this morning. You know, how many people actually buy a Blu-ray every month or a DVD? Not very many. How many people actually really buy a Blu-ray or DVD every month?
I don't every month, but there's times where I'll buy a bunch and then I won't buy anything for a bit.
All right, but okay, comics, that's my point though. The average general person doesn't, because they've got so many streaming services right now, they don't bother. But what you are doing when you pay $15 a month to HBO Max is you're basically giving them the same amount of money as you would be paying them to buy a Blu-ray of whatever the newest release was.
I agree. It's the same
and if
thing
they're
with
releasing
Spotify.
Exactly. So if they're releasing a new movie every month, brand new movie, it's basically like you buying that movie on Blu-ray. And you multiply that by a lot more people than would actually go out and buy that Blu-ray. That's how they're making money on this shit. And if Wonder Woman and Dune and Godzilla and all these movies drive enough every month to get them up there to competing with Netflix and Disney Plus, that's their goal.
I don't see them making money off that though. I mean,
it does. If you think in the end, if you think about it, it really does, because it's money right in their pocket. But there's more to it. We'll get into.
I agree. But I mean, how are you going to get a big budget blockbuster movie if you don't have? You have to be charging a premium. You have to be paying.
That will come in down the road. That will come in. And I think Disney jumped the gun, because you guys remember, I've been saying this for a while. That will be the next step. But Disney did it when people weren't ready for that yet. It will come.
No, that's what's going to happen. Agree. That's the only way they're going to be able to make these bigger budget movies is by changing a premium for when it drops, and then like a month later when they just go and release it to the general public.
Well, did you want to?
No, actually. No, we'll jump into the Nolan HBO Max stuff. Actually, we're going to go into the super chats, and we're going to talk about Mandalorian briefly, because I know people want to hear the take, and there's not much to say, and then we'll go into that stuff as well.
All right, sounds good. All right, I'll save it for then.
Yeah, let me read a couple of the super chats. Is there anything you guys, Mecha Comics, Tom, is there anything that we've covered there's any other further points that you'd like to make before we move on?
No.
I just want to make the point that Tom sucks. No, I'm kidding.
Of course I do.
It's a fact at this point.
It is.
I fucking knew it.
Look, I wish I've always put this out there because I don't want to come off as, mean-spirited or wishing ill will towards fans. I want Dune to succeed. I don't think it will. So for anyone out there that thinks, oh, Jeff hates Dune, no, I don't wish anything bad for your favorite franchise that could be. I'm just saying, from my point of view, they have tried and tried and tried. And I can't think of other franchises where they keep trying every 30 years aggressively, and then it just doesn't work. So they pull back and they go another 30 years. Not all sci-fi can be adapted, and sometimes shit has to be changed. So
yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it. I think Dune is definitely one of those franchises or books that it's very heavy sci-fi that I think your general audience is just not going to get.
And Adam did confirm that, it was the Lynch, based on the Lynch version. And if you can get me any kind of still evidence of that existing, Andre would love you. So yeah.
Or the whole thing. Is it on
Well,
YouTube?
I doubt it, but I mean, if the guy who had it still has it and can even get a screenshot, that's enough.
Yeah, I just think there's certain franchises out there I think your normies just aren't going to enjoy as much. I am actually surprised that Lord of the Rings did as well as it did.
And that's another reason why I think Dune has potential. Because it's a well enough known franchise that people know it enough, like, oh, Lord of the Rings, I'll give that a shot. And Lord of the Rings was just fucking epic. And it brought in a whole lot of normies to a very selective franchise, and I think Dune has that possibility.
But think about the time when Lord of the Rings came out. Let's see, late 2001. We were in this era of adaptations. We're coming off of Harry Potter. Magic is popular. All of this stuff, wizards. All this stuff is really cool in pop culture. We're in a weird era where science fiction is great for the fans, like we always want it, but science fiction isn't the big thing. That's why I think Lord of the Rings became, well, they're good movies. They're very good movies. I have nothing bad to say about those three.
Fantastic movies.
But what I'm trying to get is, like, they were great movies that came out at the right time. Dune could be the world's greatest movie that comes out at the wrong time, because it's not about the pandemic. It's about the public consciousness.
I was going
to say, we're just coming off of, Avengers and all this stuff, and this is a transition period. I don't think now's the year, even after outside of this virus, now's not the year to try to just jump into the next big franchise. People need time to cool down. People need time to build. Dune just always keeps seeming to come out. Like, I don't even know when the original one, like what its release was.
84.
Again. But let's see. Dune opening weekend.
84.
Well, not only that, I
Weekend,
think people just get tired of like these like overly done epic movies. It's like part of the reason why I have absolutely zero interest in, oh God, what is the movie that takes place on the planet Pandora? Cat people.
Avatar?
Yeah, thank you, Avatar. I really have no interest in Avatar at all whatsoever. And it goes back to the whole, when every movie is over the top and epic, it gets tiring.
Hey, Tom.
Yeah.
You're going to love this. Dune opened on December 14th, 1984 in 915 theaters, grossing $6 million on its opening weekend, ranking at number 2 behind Beverly Hills Cop.
Yeah.
So Dune could Dune was never number 1. It never beat Beverly Hills Cop.
Beverly Hills Cop was a fucking monster. So
that could be.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that could be. I mean, Dune didn't do horrible for the time. It just didn't do the numbers they were hoping, and Lynch had pretty much washed his hands of the whole thing and walked away. Well, but no, I think it made its money back.
I mean, it made $30.9 million from a $40 million budget. That's the domestic.
Yeah, it did very well overseas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, see, I think overall, it made closer to 100 million, which isn't too bad. And the main investors were Dino De Laurentiis, who is overseas anyway, so I'm sure he got a lot of that money. But my point is you're right on a lot of points, Jeff. But for a lot of those same reasons, I think people might be ready for this. And here's the thing with the whole point of it going to HBO Max is before all this stuff kind of happened, I noticed one thing happening in a trend on YouTube, and that was the Dune trailer dropped a month after the Batman trailer. And Batman is like Warner Brothers, like big franchise, right? Like
their biggest, dude.
Yeah, if you want to argue, like I was just going to say, argue maybe even their biggest franchise. Even though that trailer was out a month before the Dune trailer was outpacing the Batman trailer in views.
Oh.
And I'm like, I noticed that because like a lot of people have been saying, oh, I don't think it's going to do well. I'm like, well, wait a minute here. There's obviously some interest in it. But now what you have here is a situation where you took a movie that probably wasn't going to do very well in theaters. It might have done about as well as Denis Villeneuve's last movie, Blade Runner 2 did, which was not good enough to warrant another one, right? But now what you've done is put it in a position where people can watch it at home. They're more willing to take a risk on something they can watch at home. That's why Adam Sandler is perfect for Netflix, because he can spend almost the same amount of money that he used to spend on his Sony pictures, and more people watch them now because they're more willing to take a chance on an Adam Sandler movie at home on Netflix than they are to go to see it in the theaters. There's a lot more people who are going to take more of a chance to see Dune at home now than may have seen it in the theaters. I think that's going to be a big turning point for the Dune situation.
Possibly. And also, you also left out the fact that Adam Sandler gets a free vacation with each movie.
Well, that's what I've always made the joke of, is every movie that Adam Sandler makes anymore is just him an excuse for his friends to go on vacation. Yeah.
Adam Wofford elaborated a little more, Tom. He says it was the suits and the death squads, also cat people.
Oh, interesting. I'll have to let Andre know that. But yeah, if you can get me any kind of physical evidence at all, please. I've never heard of it, and I don't know if he's ever heard of it. That would be an interesting little tidbit to add to the Dune history.
So let's read some of the super chats from the audience. Folks, thank you very much for supporting the channel and the show the way you do. First, from our friend OZLEK. So Ozlek says, Bruce Campbell is Raimi versus Doctor Strange? That could be fun.
That would be funny. I think they already got a plan for him in this, don't they, though? I thought I heard he's going to...
Yeah, I thought he was supposed to play Mysterio in Raimi's
Well, no, that
series.
was that one, but I thought they already had a role for him in mind already for Doctor Strange, I thought. Raimi already said something, I thought. But
that's going to be the real fun for me, is going to this movie to look for the Bruce Campbell cameo. I loved it back in the day. I missed him in the first Spider-Man film, and I went and saw that twice in theaters. I had no clue he was the wrestler announcer. So,
what's your name, kid?
The Human Spider. Human Spider. That sucks.
That sucks.
Spider-Man.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Spider-Man. That's not my name.
So one of my favorite Bruce Campbell stories, I went to a convention and my cousin told me this story. He's like, yeah, he made 80 grand in an afternoon, dude. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, he just had this stack of money and people had to usher him out and shit. It was cool. So Bruce Campbell is one of the
Bruce Campbell's a god.
Yeah. You know what's fucked up? I had a chance to meet him once and my friend didn't think I'd be interested, so he didn't say anything to me.
Oh.
Yeah, because I went to Michigan State and it was in 2007. So this was Spider-Man 3 had just come out, and at school, for some reason, well, not for some reason, it was the biggest movie. When you went to your academic orientation program, they brought up Sam Raimi and the filmmakers and stuff that have been through the school. And my buddy worked for the yearbook, and he's like, yeah, I could have brought you along. He also could have got me to see Paranormal Activity before it ever came out. And we didn't do any of those things.
Forget the latter part, but I'd have been like, that. You're now my former friend for not allowing me to meet Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell, you dirty bastard.
Well, one day I'm out here. Maybe, who knows? Maybe we'll shop at the same grocery store. I didn't know you went to Vaughn's. 16-bit mascot says they only want Toby because they know Spider-Boy sucks. Well, proven commodities in 2020 are a really good thing for a studio. And folks, you can rip on Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man all you want, but his 3 films were very successful, and Spider-Man 3, up until the newest one, was the most successful film, even over Into the Spider-Verse. So, yes, money does not.
Into the Spider-Verse didn't make as much money as people think.
No, it's the least successful of every Spider-Man film.
Is it really? That's hilarious.
No, it got a lot of attention. That's all.
Yeah, I still haven't seen that movie yet.
I don't hate Tom Holland though, but again, yeah, of course, Tobey Maguire is kind of like Christopher Reeve when it comes.
Sorry,
to
I'm going to rephrase that. Into the Spider-Verse, I still haven't seen that one. I've seen all the other ones.
Now, comic, do you have I don't mean this as like a humble brag, but do you have a newer 4K TV?
I don't know if it's 4K. I may.
All I'm saying is it is one of the best looking movies to test out on Netflix, because traditionally it's always been GoldenEye. Hey, I got a new TV, I'm going to watch GoldenEye on it. But GoldenEye, I didn't know that it was in 4K yet. So I tested Into the Spider-Verse. That movie is visually stunning. That is one of the only movies that I will watch just for the visuals beyond anything else, because it's so layered and rich and dense and beautiful to look at.
I want to say it is. We bought a new TV when we moved. It's a 70-inch TV. I want to say it's 4K. It may not be.
Well, to answer the question for you, Tom, on a budget of $90 million, Into the Spider-Verse made $375.5 million. So that's very, very low compared to any other Spider-Man.
Yeah, it barely made its money back.
I mean, if we go back to the first Spider-Man film from 2002, what did that bring in? 5 or 6? 825 in 2002 money.
Oh, by now that's almost $2 billion.
And I mean, Spider-Man 2 brought in what, 789,
Or at least one and a
Spider-Man
half.
3.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
Spider-Man 3
like
brought in almost $1 billion, 895 in 2007.
Spider-Man has been on a downward slope until these two recent films, I believe. These two recent films, I think, made a little bit more than the Amazing ones did. But again, yeah, the Spider-Verse movie, I won't deny that it did well on video. I'm just one of those few outliers who just didn't like it. I don't like the aesthetic. I don't like it. To me, it's blurry, and I don't like to watch it. And it's jerky, and I don't like the story. And
now the story. Here's the thing: I'm of two minds. Like, I can admit all the faults I have with the story from a movie or as a Spider-Man fan. All of those things. I put the preface out there. Like, I know the movie is what it is, substance-wise, but it's just pretty eye porn. You just stare at it. And you look at it, it's so bright and colorful and amazing. And, at the end of it, I'm just like, is it dumb? Yeah. Do I laugh? Is it a good movie? Not amazing. So Adam Wofford says, someone told me that the reason why Marvel made Spider-Woman, other Spider people, so DC or others couldn't copy him. DC version of Spider-Woman or others. Adam, I've heard Ethan mention stuff like that. Why they'll do Spider-Man to Spider-Woman and vice versa for characters.
The one Spider-Woman is actually under a separate license. I know that.
What, Jessica Drew?
Yeah, the Jessica Drew one. And that's one that Sony does not have, as far as I know.
Well, it's interesting because our friend Lil Poet Boy, thank you very much, he says, what's your opinion on Jessica Drew's Spider-Woman? Furthermore, about her being a single mother who has a baby that already has superpowers. So, Mecca, since we haven't checked in with you, thoughts on Jessica Drew's Spider-Woman? Do you have any opinions on her?
No. I think I've even seen the character. No. I don't like women version of characters.
Yeah.
Like just in general, like Batwoman or like a Spider-Woman or you make your own characters. That's really it's kind of condescending to a woman just to have, well, what? I'm not good enough for my own character. You got to give me the woman version.
No, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, but Jessica Drew has been around for a pretty long time, though, and part of it too is that she had her own thing. Did she have her own cartoon? I don't remember. I remember
not a cartoon, but she was Alias was her book series.
I don't remember, but I do remember seeing her in some form of animated format back in like the 80s or 90s. I swear I must be maybe I'm delusional.
It was on Disney. Yeah, sorry, I remember that cartoon. Sorry, I thought you were talking about the more recent.
No, I'm talking about the older version of Jessica Drew or Spider-Woman when she was good.
In 1979.
Yeah, that's it. That's what I thought. But yeah, it's part of it is that when they revamped her after the whole Milo Manara controversy. I don't know if you remember what happened with that, but
I do. I'll pull that up right now.
He drew this very, very sexy version of her crawling around, and people complained. And that's really, I think, what kicked off the whole SJW thing with Marvel Comics. And because they pulled the cover, it never got released, and it was a big fiasco. And then after that incident is when they went and revamped the character.
I mean, even though she's not a carbon copy of Spider-Man to a point, I do agree with Mecca, and that's the point I was making earlier. It's just, to me, the you come up with something new. That's what makes, Wonder Woman so stand out, and Catwoman and a few of these other characters more so than others usually, is they're not just a blank version of whatever said superhero.
I wouldn't say that they start off. I mean, yeah, you could definitely probably say they're token characters, but back then they at least had their own. I mean, look at She-Hulk.
There are some that are better, but see, now She-Hulk's another one I don't care for at all. I hate that idea.
Well, like back in the 90s, she was kind of like their version of Deadpool. Before Deadpool really kind of got big, she broke the fourth wall a lot. It was its own thing. She was drawn very, very sexy, and then
to me it's the same thing as just put a bow on it. It's a Miss Pac-Man thing to a point almost.
Yeah, well, I put a bow on it. That's funny. But I mean, it was its own thing though, and it didn't try to be Bruce Banner. That was the whole thing that was cool about She-Hulk, is that it wasn't like just a female rage monster running around being a female version of Bruce Banner. The whole thing with Jim Walter is that when she became She-Hulk, she became a lot more confident in herself, which is like kind of the complete opposite of what you got with Banner.
Well, then
Right
why
here,
don't?
comics on the screen. There she is breaking the fourth wall. She's calling out to John Byrne about getting her book canceled.
Yeah.
Well, then why don't you do something that's a little bit more original, though? Because, okay, let me give you this scenario. Hulk is loosely based on, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, right? Okay, do a similar character with a female. Just don't make it She-Hulk. Make it something else.
Well, I understand, but you know the history behind the character, right?
To a point, but
Yeah,
go
she
ahead.
ended up getting a blood transfusion from her cousin, Bruce Banner, and that's how she became She-Hulk.
Again, that's just...
Hey, comics, do you remember when Aunt May needed a blood transfusion, but Peter refused because he knew his radioactive blood would kill her, and that doctor just thought he was a dick?
Yeah.
Where can we have those awkward moments in Spider-Man? Because Spider-Man's been populated with awkward moments for decades. My favorite one in history is he's getting ready to go off to this huge battle. His suit got destroyed. So he goes to the store and he buys a costume that looks just like his. And in the middle of the battle, his costume gets wet. And just as it's about to get climactic, it shrinks.
See, we have some of those moments in the MCU ones, but we also have some of those moments that you can't have, like you just said, Jeff, and I understand, and that's what bothers some people is because everybody knows he's Spider-Man in this universe almost.
Yeah.
But anyway,
not literally. Anyway,
that's my main point with what they were doing. When they actually made She-Hulk just like the Hulk, that's what ruined the character. Because beforehand, she was her own thing, and now she's just, Hulk, but female.
Right, and that's kind of goes to my whole point. Like, yeah, and again, I feel the same way about things like Supergirl and stuff too. And I get it; they're different enough, but it's just the pandering aspect, and that's what Mecha was.
I don't think they were pandering back then. I think that they were just trying to do different things, or like Jeff pointed out, the reason why they created these characters was so that the other company couldn't steal them.
To a point, yes and no. Back in the day, a lot of these guys originated or gals originated for the specific reason, similar reasons as they are now, but it was completely capitalistic reasons. And that was, Superman's popular. Oh, let's get the girls involved. What do we do? Oh, well, let's make a Supergirl.
Yeah, same thing with Superboy.
And exactly, yeah, and a Superboy. Well, how do we get the younger kids involved? Let's make a Superboy. Like, that's
weird, it's just supposed to be him, right?
Depending on which version, I guess. Yeah,
Superboy is Clark's earlier days in Smallville.
Yeah, which that I can give with an asterisk. I guess you could put a caveat on that one. But my other point still stands, though, and the whole point of, like, outside of Robin and a few variant ones, they're mostly just a complete rehash of whatever the original character was, slapdash whatever on it version, be it a skin change color or a sex change color, just to sell it to another demographic. Before, now we're just doing it for woke points.
Our friend Pete Mitchell says, I wonder if Peter Parker's sperm is toxic. Well, Pete, I know you wrote that as a joke, but there's an actual storyline called Spider-Man Reign where he has killed Mary Jane because she got cancer from their sex. That's not a joke.
Who thinks of this stuff?
Hold on. Let me give you the name of the writer right here.
I was being...
Well, it's Kara Andrews. That's who thinks of this
shit.
I
was just going to say, it sounds like fucking, not Banky,
this
but...
is what the problem
is. What was Jason Lee's name in Mallrats? Jesus Christ. Brody.
Brody.
Sounds like Brody's writing this shit, man.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing, I saw an interview with Chuck Dixon on, oh, God, whose channel was it? John... I'm blanking on John's last name. And he was talking about the whole thing with, like, the reason why I guess most people didn't realize how repetitive comics were is because by the time they matured, they jumped off and they didn't realize that there was a lot of these kind of like repeating stories and that happened throughout the years. And I think I'm trying to remember if I think he was talking about Batman. Yeah, he was talking about Batman, but it's the same thing with Spider-Man. It's like you start getting into like these really kind of screwy storylines like the Clone Saga, and then it just kind of repeats.
Well, and that tropes in everything too, not to sound like a broken record from our last argument, but you see it in sitcoms, you see it in procedural dramas, you see it in just about everything. There's those several tropes of those episodes that are in every TV show, or like just the kind of concepts are still there.
It is, but kind of this is the reason why I think when it comes to stories, you need to have a beginning and an end, because at some point in time, it's like you said with sitcoms. After a while, they're going on for so long, they just get boring and dry and stale.
No, you're right, and that makes it a hard entering point for any person in comics, and I think that's why they tried too much with the revamping in the last few years.
Well, it'd be fine if it's like, okay, let's retire this for a decade and then come back to it later when the content's fresh again.
Our friend Infinity Hand says pandering isn't an inherently bad thing. Supergirl, Power Girl, She-Hulk, etc. were all done properly and were very good characters.
I agree. I completely agree.
Well, and I'm not trying to tear people down who enjoy them at all. Don't get me wrong. That's just my personal point of view. Obviously, my opinion on it. I'm not a fan. I think
a lot of us are kind of jaded because of what's been going on with current year, though.
That's part of it too, but it also just kind of is rooted in things like, like a great example is like Smallville or Gotham. It's like, why do I want a Superman or a Batman show without Superman or Batman? It's like
that's the biggest mistake they always make with these properties. Oh, we're going to give you the show that's in the world. I don't give a fuck about the world.
And that's kind of to me
New York City.
Exactly.
There's shows that are in New York City.
And that's what to me some of these characters are. They're extensions of that. It's like, oh, you're giving me this thing that's like this other thing that I'd rather have. Like that's just how I feel. I'm sorry.
Oh, dude, there's nothing wrong with that. Our friend Mark C has a really excellent point, though, since we're talking about comics right this second. He says, if you want to continue to collect comics, we pretty much have to end the business in general. Find a shop that's a honey hole of back issues and work on the great stuff of old.
Well, yes. I know that's what Gary wants to do with his comic shop.
I was going to say, isn't that what most comic shops make their living off of anymore recent years with the whole...
They don't.
Games. My local one was all about the damn.
Yeah, it's all about the other merchandise. The shop I go to, comics is a third of, or maybe it's a fourth of their sales. Everything else is either magic cards or card games, board games, collectible toys, statues. They make a lot of money off statues.
Well, I meant as far as like comic books themselves, aren't the back issues selling a hell of a lot more than the current shit? Or
I think now they are.
I mean, for years, all I would buy is like
I've
collections.
Canceled my sub at this point. The only thing I'm really keeping is like some of the independent stuff, and I think the last good book that was coming out of DC which is Hawkman, which is canceled, and the DC Black stuff, which has been pretty good too. So I don't know. I mean, at this point, I'm done with both Marvel and DC, and I just occasionally go in. I'll either buy like a collectible toy and look at some back issues.
Well, that's kind of what I mean. Like me in the last however many years outside of certain things, that's all I do is I get collections or graphic novels. I don't even bother with anything else anymore.
I want to say I bought the entire Infinity Saga for like $30.
Dude, I got lucky. I picked up Civil War for $1 an issue, like the day before they announced the movie. So it was like
skyrocket.
The skyrocket, because everyone speculates. Folks, one mistake a lot of people make is they think every comic book is valuable. If people come to you with a book from the 90s that has a holofoil cover and that says, oh, it's worth a lot of money, respectful. Actually, I'd say laugh in their face, but be respectful.
I have 3 Spawn #1s that are still worth $5.
Dude, I have a Spawn #1 that's worth $0.25 because that's what I paid for it like 10 years ago at the half price.
The death of Superman is what spawned this whole thing.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
And that's why the death of Superman comic ain't worth diddly shit.
It's speculation market.
Because it was one of the most overprinted comics in history. And it bloated the market. Like, I literally had a guy practically giving them away at a rummage sale one time. Like, he had a whole box of them. Like, I guarantee you, he bought them thinking they were going to be worth some huge amount of money, and he was basically selling them for $1 or $2 under the fucking sticker price or whatever. Yeah, and they were still in the plastic, the black and white plastic, the 2 issues.
Well, yeah, it's the reason why people need to throw their stuff away, because then it will actually be worth something.
Well, not so much throw the stuff away, but it's the comic industry. They want to make themselves valuable again. They got to quit doing all these variant covers and 100 different editions, and that's what they
don't make money off the. I wouldn't say the retail, but they don't. Okay, if a comic becomes like worth $100, Marvel's not going to make money off of it.
No.
Unless they have a few issues that are kind of stacked away.
And that's another reason why they did that. Because they were like, well, we want to see some of this.
Because right now at my shop, maybe it's sold, but they had a X-Men #1. It was graded 0.5. The book is in complete terrible condition, worth $1,000.
I know a guy who had one in almost pristine, but he didn't deserve it.
So comics. True story. My uncle, who's passed away many, many years ago, hell, a decade before I was born, he's the product of, two parents from the World War II. So he's growing up with all these golden age books. And when he went off the knob, my grandma threw out all of his books.
Oh my God.
That just he passed away with that grudge.
That's the reason a lot of that stuff is worth money. That's why, you know,
it is.
and it's obvious. But I mean,
Tom, it's like saying, I have an original 1978 Luke Skywalker with a double telescoping lightsaber on a 12-back card. That's like a holy grail piece for Luke Skywalker collectors. Then if I say I got a 1995 Power of the Force 2 Luke Skywalker mint on card with the extendable or the overlong lightsaber, it's worth $5.
Yeah, it's like fuck you. I can get 5 of them for $5 on eBay. Yeah,
yeah. But it's all about being overly produced / available because comics, this they used to print comic books 10 times more than they do now. A print run of an old Superman book could sell 1 million copies and they wouldn't even blink an eye. Yep, another successful run for national publications, and they move on. But through time, we remember, folks, post World War II, or during World War II, people they traded in a lot of their books because they were trying to help with the war effort. I don't know how that worked, but I guess it was recycling and other stuff. I can look into the history. So a lot of people recycled their comics. Then in the 50s, when you had the scare from Frederick Wertham, people burned their comic books. Then when you had the 60s books from Marvel coming in, you had a publisher that was actually at the whim of their competition because they didn't even have the publishing arm that they would end up having. They had to go through a third party, and they put out 8 books a month or something? Not 8 books a month. Comic was it 4 books a month, and they were bi-monthly, like old Spider-Man and Hulk and shit was all bi-monthly books.
Yeah.
But the point I'm trying to make, though, folks, is those books were harder to get, harder to come by. There aren't that many in the world, and that's why they're valuable. Because
exactly, because they were lost to time, or
And so bringing up all this new shit, look, X-Men #1 sold 8 million copies. In theory, there are probably 6 million copies still out there still. Come on.
From the X-Men #1 from the 90s. Yeah, I mean, I own 7 copies.
It's worth a little bit, but not that much. Yeah, no. And that's the point, is it all depends. It's a fluctuating market where however many years ago I probably could have gotten 20 fucking #1 books of Deadpool, Black Panther, Guardians of the Galaxy, all for dirt cheap. But now they're a little bit more worth more because of the movies.
And the other thing that Mark brings up here is the whole thing with Pops. That's also very popular, and my shop sells a lot of those. Right,
but that goes into the point that Cecil and EBS made, that they did that little cartoon of. That's the whole point, is
Pops
it's the comic
the industry too.
Well, no. The whole comic book shops not taking or not comic book shops, but the comic book creators and DC and Marvel not taking advantage of the movies being the biggest thing ever, then you don't have those characters anymore in the comics. That's where I don't understand why they didn't capitalize on that.
Brought that up. That was the biggest mistake Marvel made, is that they'd have people occasionally show up. Hey, I saw the Iron Man movie, or Iron Man's gotten popular.
My kid likes Iron Man.
Let me go buy some Iron Man comics. Okay, here you go. What's this? Why is there a girl on it? Well, they killed Iron Man, and this is the new Iron Man. Well, I don't want to buy this crap.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. They killed the entire industry in one fell swoop by doing that, because you killed the entire opportunity.
But it goes back to what there's a number of things that they were trying to do. Disney was trying to bring in their own original properties so they could stop paying royalties to people. And on top of that, they're trying to they got slammed by the whole social justice thing because of what was going on with the Milo Manera cover. You had several controversies around Falcon and Jet Black and the Captain America comic. You had all these really really controversies with these with the news journals at the time, just complaining about stuff, and that's the reason why they started changing things. And but like I said, on top of that, the reason why they did All New, All Different is because it was all stuff that Disney owned. Did I kill the conversation?
No, sorry. You're probably right.
So could you repeat? I had my mic muted, and I just was like,
I figured he'd be. No, he said the reason they created All New, All Marvel was because of the whole Disney acquisition, and those were mostly characters.
Well, they owned Marvel. At that point for a number of years.
Yeah, 4 years. They were 2009 is when they bought them.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that day. I was driving to college. It was my junior year at Michigan State University, and somebody texted me, "Did you hear Disney bought Marvel?" And I was like, "I'm on the road. I'll look it up later." And that was the first thing I looked up when I got moved into my dorm. It was a big deal. I remember
But
that.
yeah, I mean, it is. And it's also the reason why these companies can, specifically Marvel and DC, is because they're being propped up by these larger companies. It was at that time period, it was the reason why they could do all this junk is because the books didn't have to sell. They could practice shareholder capitalism because, they were being backed up by a larger corporation.
And that never gives them the impetus to create anything great to get themselves out of the hole. You can, like, as a comic book fan, I understand there are certain stories that people like to rip on. But if you look at something like Secret Wars, yes, you could say it's hollow, it's shallow, but it does what a company needs to do.
And I need to correct myself. I said shareholder capitalism. I meant stakeholder capitalism.
I'll have to look into that because that's a phrase.
And you could almost
chalk the idea that they're not the shareholders are just another stakeholder, and it's the reason why they can get away with pushing diversity, because you say if we push this much diversity, then our executives get bonuses. It's interesting. It's very interesting.
Well, that's what I've heard about the Kamala Khan constant pushing it in our faces, because what's her name, Sana Amanat, as a big wig at Marvel. She's a creator, she gets a royalty, so I'm sure she cleaned up nice. Well, actually, no, she wouldn't have.
She's the person who is secretly running Marvel.
Well, if you're secretly listening to this show, you're not so secretly doing a piss poor job, so please continue to run the House of Ideas into the ground.
Might ruin the House of Ideas, but
we
burn that shit down.
Get past this anyway, but you're right.
Our friend Mark C, he did say my local shop makes its money on statues, pops, and trades. Fortunately, I travel a lot. Folks, I do want to reiterate, if you have a local comic shop, never take out the current state of the industry on them. They don't write the books. They don't dictate what sells. They don't dictate. Look, if they got to choose what would be put in their stores, it would be whatever the most popular selling thing was. They want to make money. They're a business, and I respect that. Marvel used to be a business too, and the ability of creativity as a business is you can intersect so many different things. You can put you can put the popular IP out there, but you can also put all kinds of great things in the popular IP to really reach as many people as possible. Whatever we've become as a society is an embarrassment to creative work everywhere, because creative
it really is, man. I mean, if you look at manga in Japan, they still sell millions of copies, which is just mind-boggling in the age of so much different forms of entertainment. People still buy manga, and why do they buy it? Because it doesn't suck.
Well, I think buying manga is like buying Blu-rays here, and hear me out, folks. We're constantly told in the West that it's time to move on to the digital version. Forget the physical. Don't do this. Don't do that. Don't buy the disc. Don't buy the book. Don't go to the store. Get it on Kindle. And there's a life for all of these physical things. I would argue the physical thing makes the product, gives it its unique touch. So for everyone out there, Thomas, I just wanted to bounce off your point. Like, books aren't irrelevant. They're popular in other parts of the world. I think there's just this narrative in the West that's like, get rid of the physical, go all digital. We're not there yet.
Yeah, there's no money.
Yeah, maybe not. Digital did kind of there was a point where people are like, oh, books are dead. The internet's alive now, and then, we had the digital books kind of take over. So, and audiobooks have kind of become a bigger thing here in the last few years, even more so. And, you even kind of had the same argument with the mail. They're like, oh, the mail's dead. And then Amazon saved the post office, basically. So they just have to find a way to innovate, basically, and find a way to adapt. Comics and movies, as far as that goes, I don't know if the digital realm per se is the way to go, but comic books just don't feel the same in digital. And, not having a physical movie in my hand, I don't feel safe either. So both of those, same thing with music to a point. That's why I never completely 100% adapted to digital music. Like, I've never just had a complete, digital archive of music and no physical version.
Oh God, I was an early adopter, man.
Not me.
As soon as iTunes came out and they had the iTunes store, I was able to find a bunch of music I've been hunting around for.
Oh yeah, I went and got stuff I've never had before, but I still had my original.
The problem now is that I think we just become like junkies for digital services. I mean, I'm a huge Spotify offender, but at the same time, Spotify introduces me to bands I haven't heard before, and it's again, I used to spend probably anywhere between like $50 to $70 a month on buying CDs or buying music off of Amazon or iTunes.
Well, and my point I was going to get to, though, is I feel like comics are probably primed for a resurgence of some type, but they just got to get out of this fucking political funk.
Well, I think we already have that with independent stuff. Ethan,
yes,
me,
I think you're right.
Everyone out there, like, there's a life for comics. And it's not just, you know, a digital book. I know for a while everyone thought that the next wave of, you know, comics was it like Penny Arcade and all those things. And yes, Penny Arcade became PAX Expo and all that great stuff. Or Penny Arcade
Did
Expo.
they become PAX? I had no idea.
That's what PAX stands for, Penny Arcade Expo. So I'm pretty sure.
Oh my God, I had no idea. But yeah, I mean, there was like I remember back in the early 2000s, you had PvP, and they actually, you know, which started online. Eventually, they started printing their own issues. I don't think it lasted very long, but yeah.
Now,
No,
folks,
you're right.
I'm going to read two more super chats before we start talking about the Mandalorian. But Mark C gave me an idea. Mark C says, by the way, I'm currently trying to put a run of Blueberry epic graphic novels together. If you have any and are looking, or if you have any and you're looking to part with them, DM me. Folks, I'd like to start something in the community right now because we're a community of collectors, we're a community of readers, all this stuff. Like Mark C said, if you have Blueberry's epic graphic novels and you're looking to get part or rid of them, let me know. Like if you're looking for shit, folks, just put it out there. There are other comic readers. People trade books back and forth. Start that in the community. I think it'd be a fun little thing, something we haven't done yet. So, folks, if you have Blueberry, which I believe you're looking for the Moebius books, right, Mark C? I don't have those, or else I'd love to help you. But folks, if you do, hit up Mark C. And if you're looking for shit, comics, games, movies, post it out there. Somebody might have it for you. We can kill the scalper market. And finally, our friend Boag says, comic industry was being killed before the SJWs took over, with constant renumbering, summer events that changed the universe and forever, and the retcons.
It just made it worse, is all it did. I mean, before it started getting really super SJW, I remember they did, oh God, what was the event? It's when all the heroes became villains and all the villains became heroes. Axis, that was it. And I was so mad reading that. It's like, this is so stupid. It is so stupid.
I think the straw that broke the camel's back for me, that like actually got me to leave completely, was, oh God, Civil War 2. No, Secret War 2. The one with Doctor Doom and all that crap.
Secret War 2 with where they made Cap a Nazi?
No, I must be thinking. Wait.
Oh, you're talking about Secret Wars.
That's the one it is. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that was definitely where the cracks started showing for sure. And it was after that when they launched All New, All Different.
Yeah, that's the book that I believe got me to stop reading Marvel Comics, because I went into the store. I'm like, all right, the new big crossover event, because I liked was it the Age of Heroes in 2012 when Romita Jr. was drawing the new Avengers book, and I think it was Brian Michael Bendis was writing it. And I bought into the Age of Ultron storyline a couple years later. Like, I liked, for the most part, the big Marvel events were getting me in the stores, but this is the one, it's fucking dog shit. And I respect Jonathan Hickman as a writer, but this is the worst comic book series that Marvel's put out.
Oh,
it killed my interest.
It was terrible. That really made me mad. X-Men versus the Inhumans was another crossover event that pissed me off. I actually dropped both those books, because you had like this big event, and it's like, you know, they're leading up to them, you know, quote unquote, killing off the mutants. And a lot of this was going on because of what was going on with Fox, because it's the reason why they got rid of the Fantastic Four was because of the Fox movie. And then on top of that, they were potentially killing off the mutants because of, again, Fox. And then they ended it with, oh, you mean if we actually talk to each other, we could avoid this whole thing? It was such a facepalm moment. I was like, I am so pissed. I literally went in the next day.
Perlmutter had a lot to do with that, though.
Yeah, Perlmutter did. And I canceled all my X-Men titles and Inhuman titles. I was so mad.
The Inhumans was a thing. Marvel tried it. I find it interesting that most people forget about that failure. And then I think the Eternals is another one of those IPs where you try to take the group element, and you know, it doesn't always work.
No, it doesn't. And they were trying to make the Inhumans the new X-Men, but you can't force something to be popular, and it just never took off.
No, it never ever did. So, hold on. Boags, thank you very much again. Says Perlmutter kept the SJWs out though.
Not
What do you
really,
think?
because a lot of that stuff happened when Axel Alonso was chief editor.
Yeah, do you remember when Axel Alonso had that? Was it that summit at the comic convention where people were like, "The books aren't selling anymore. What the hell is Marvel going to do for us?"
Yes.
When all the retailers were freaking out.
Yep. And they blamed it on, oh, people just don't like diversity. It's just like, shut the fuck up.
Now I have a question for you guys. Let's say that Ike Perlmutter being involved would give you shitty stories, but would keep identity politics out of comics. What would you rather take? Would you deal with bad stories that aren't as offensive, or would you rather just deal with identity politics, but you have a chance of getting something better?
Oh man. Well, here's the thing that was funny about it. At least when we had the SJW stuff, because of how atrociously horrible it was, we could make fun of it. I think honestly, like the worst thing you could do is make something boring and forgettable. At least some of the SJW stuff was memorable. Like America Chavez, Gabby Rivera's run was just so atrociously cringy that you could legit make fun of it and entertain people based off of that pain. Whereas if you get something that's just boring and bad, it's forgettable. So I don't know. It's like pick your poison, I guess.
Yeah, I think even Spider-Verse is a bit of a point of, yeah, it's not completely woke, but it's woke enough that if you can do something that's woke, and as long as it's entertaining and has a decent story, most people won't notice. So I think the worst, like, I think comics is right. The worst mistake you can make is just to make something boring
and forgettable.
Then at least try to do something new, even if you have to work over an agenda in the process.
Yeah, I mean, look at Marvel now. Nobody's talking about it. I mean, a lot of YouTubers that started during Comicsgate aren't talking about Marvel Comics or reviewing them. At least back then when we were making fun of them, we were talking about it.
Well, they're not worth talking about. The books are irrelevant. I've actually gone. I have a website that I use, full transparency, to read comics. If I like a book, or if it's an independent book, I will buy it outright, no hesitation. I'll go back and try to see what's up with Spider-Man or the newer stuff, or whatever, the newest Black Cat book, or just random books like that. Even for free, dude, they're not worth reading. Like, I can understand why you wouldn't be covering them on a channel, because if I have access right now, okay, the new Black Cat book, Iron Man's on the cover. So as a fan who stopped reading because of bad stories, Riri Williams was Iron Man. I was told that I was a racist bigot if I wasn't excited for Riri Williams. But then I go pick up a book, and Tony Stark's on the cover with the Black Cat, which makes sense. But what happened to your whole edict about Riri Williams and all these really iconic Marvel Now, all new, all different characters? Oh, wait, they sucked. And you went back.
They completely sucked.
Like, I'm so tired of, like, I'll admit it. The conviction is impressive with these people, but they're full of shit.
No, they absolutely are.
So our friend Boag also says when Perlmutter got axed, SJWs took over. All new, all different Marvel is one of the last times I paid attention to a press release from that company.
When did Perlmutter get axed?
I think post 2015.
Well,
Feige and Bob kicked him out. Feige and Bob pushed him out.
Yeah, well, I think I want to say we already had all new, all different in full swing at that point.
Yeah, because I think it's 2013.
Yeah, it was. It was. What's that? It was 2013.
Yeah, I think that's when it was. I could be completely wrong, but that's what my gut's telling me.
Let me look it up, see if I can find it.
While you're looking that up, though, let's see. Right here, we had I had the article pulled up from Comics Beat. Kevin Feige nearly left the MCU over diversity, and it looks like when was that? Because I think it's like 2015 is when Feige got more power or something. I was looking for the dates.
I wouldn't be between 2014 and 15. Yeah.
Okay, when did he leave?
But Mecca, what about you? Would you rather have bad storytelling or diversity bullshit with a chance of good storytelling?
September 2015 is when Perlmutter had stopped overseeing Marvel Studios.
Oh, okay.
I think I'd just rather have it be so completely bad that it's easy to rip on.
Exactly.
Instead of like boring. So, because like boring is in one ear and out the other. That's like how bad Star Trek Discovery was this last week. You know, just in one ear out the other, except for like the major cringe. But yeah, I'd rather have it be so bad. At least there's something to focus on.
Translate Crusher.
Yeah. So bad.
They them
They
there.
them are so regressive and out of touch that they actually are distressed by their pronouns. So
Well, do you guys want to just have fun at Will Wheaton's expense for a moment?
Oh, absolutely. I love having fun at Will Wheaton's expense because he's such an
You
idiot.
have to ask.
Okay, well, we're gonna, folks in the chat, pay attention. We're about to make fun of Will Wheaton for a moment.
Will Wheaton?
Now, this isn't, anyone's like, "Ooh, what are you gonna say about Will Wheaton?" I'm gonna show you what Will Wheaton has to say about himself. Because here's my favorite thing to do. And I don't know what Will Wheaton does on the internet. I don't really follow him because I don't like Star Trek The Next Generation that much.
I just know he blocked me.
Show. What'd you say?
I just know he blocked me.
Oh, he probably blocked me too. I never spoke to Will Wheaton because I don't give a shit about him. But
Yeah, same here.
he used to be a teen heartthrob for some reason, probably because of the movie Stand By Me.
Yeah.
So let me put this up on the screen for everyone to share it. You'll get a kick out of it. Tom, I'm just going to send it to you and you can look at it whenever you want. But it's a little clip from, I guess this is Tiger Beat magazine or something like that. You guys remember those magazines back in the day, right?
Absolutely.
Who's, Scott Baio, who's he dating and all this shit. It's like, I don't care. So right here, wonderful Will Wheaton wants to connect with you. I just thought this would be funny for a moment. I wanted to share this on the High Council. So Will Wheaton says, "I like smart girls. I can't stand girls who pretend to be stupid." So that's the quote we go with right away. Will speaks. I guess we'll listen. So you guys want to hear what Will has to say?
Well, let's hear it.
Not really.
Well, let's hear what he has to say anyway.
No, but this is too priceless. Yes.
But he wants to connect with you.
Yeah, he wants to.
Fuck you, Will.
Guys, Will Wheaton is just like us. Okay, so he says a lot of people must think because I'm an actor and a kid, I must be really cool. Hey, you must do drugs. I am not like that at all. If you do drugs, you are an idiot. You die.
Only if you do bad drugs.
Yeah. Well,
And
Will
not the
Wheaton,
cheeky fun drugs.
Yeah. Like,
I don't judge. Will Wheaton, straight edge, good for him.
I'm just
Now,
shit.
hold on.
He
Let's. I'm
does
going
that.
to make a
No.
CM Punk joke. Believe
Sounds
me.
like Will Wheaton is judging me if I do drugs, though. And I don't
That's what I was getting at. Yeah.
Here's what Will Wheaton likes about Los
Thank
Angeles.
you, Jesse.
The best thing about LA is I like the beach. I like the beach a lot. I also like the amusement parks and the sun and girls.
And girls.
He doesn't have a case of the gays, folks.
He says, everything makes me laugh. I laugh a lot. See, I want to know what happened with Will Wheaton. I don't think he laughs anymore. I like to think Will Wheaton has lost his smile a la Shawn Michaels in the late 90s. So, folks, if you can pinpoint when Will Wheaton lost his smile, let us know in the chat.
Probably
Well,
when he got a
sometime
shit
around
ton
the-
of hate for being on Star Trek.
Yeah, I was gonna, it had to be that because I remember back in like the late 90s, he was pretty popular on Fark. I don't know if anyone knows the website Fark, but yeah, I mean he was kind of popular there. I want to say he was programming at the time. I don't remember. I mean, it's a
I
long
don't know,
time
but he
ago.
got hated off that fucking show, man. Like
He did. And honestly, what I remember was when he did this rant about Star Wars and how people were complaining about, I think it was The Force Awakens, and he did this video, and it's just like it was funny because it's just like it was terrible. It was such a terrible hot take. And Stevie brings up Big Bang Theory. I think that's probably where he became the most insufferable. But yeah, it's like with everything that's been happening on with adult pretenders. You know, they latch onto a trend, and that's what happened back then. Back in the I guess 2015, when the whole woke thing really kind of started, he latched onto it just like everybody else and got brainwashed by it, I guess.
Well, let me read the last three quotes real quick because they're funny. He says, "My bedroom is really big. I've got posters of people all over it. I have a Freddy Krueger poster that is right above my head. Freaks people out. A lot of people do not sleep in my bed."
No kidding.
I don't think your Freddy Krueger poster is the reason why. Will. But okay, you tell yourself that at night.
He sounds like a kid, like an 8-year-old.
Well, hold on. He said he started acting when he was 7 years old. My mom had been a commercial actress and a model. I went to the commercial agency for kids. It's what I wanted to do. My parents never forced me. Parents should never force their kids to do anything. Thanks, Will. Your parenting advice. Jesse, make sure we pay attention to Will Wheaton's parenting advice.
Yeah, don't make shit pancake do anything he doesn't want to.
And then finally, acting is a great release.
All I have to say is when I was a kid / teenager, I had like a Farrah Fawcett poster over my bed. It's like, why would you have a picture of Freddy Krueger?
Hey,
it's like, come on, dude.
I do now.
Well, yeah, we're adults. That's different.
I bought my talking Freddy when I was like 10.
I did then
Or
too. I
maybe
mean,
younger.
I had a fair share of women on my wall as well. Don't get me wrong, but I mean,
Trish Stratus. That was my poster girl growing up. So I just wanted to share that briefly. I thought it was fun to have
That's
a little
funny.
fun at Will Wheaton's expense because
Cooper Brothers Entertainment. Will Wheaton is a virgin.
yeah, if they can verify it, I'll believe it. And they have, so I believe it.
There's more proof that he is than he isn't.
Yeah, I will not let him live his life.
I want to see somebody come forward and say they have slept with him. Then maybe.
Yeah.
He's the 40-year-old virgin.
There's never going to be a movement that was like, I was with Will Wheaton too. Like, that's never going to be. Will Wheaton is not a notch in anyone's belt. They're just like, yeah, I fucked the guy from Star Trek once.
No, they're like of all the
Riker,
people, of all the guys on Stand By Me, he got the least amount of pussy.
Yeah, because
Obviously.
Phoenix and Corey Feldman were
Even the fat kid got more pussy than him.
I married Rebecca Romaine.
Yeah, dude, Jerry O'Connell won the
That's what I was
lottery.
getting at. Yeah,
of
that's
all
what I'm
the
saying.
people
Like,
on Stand By Me. Jerry O'Connell was the one. He had the best career. He had the hottest wife, and he seems like the coolest dude. I don't want to hang out with Will Wheaton or Corey Feldman, and River Phoenix sadly passed away, so that's not even an opportunity. But fucking Jerry O'Connell, dude, you kick ass.
I bet you Corey Feldman would be fun, maybe more fun 20 years ago, but
I met him in No Stories and shit. Not fun.
okay, you'll have to tell me sometime.
I'll tell you publicly. They're not even bad. Like at a food truck, we were at a convention, or he's at a convention trying to get cut in front of people at a food truck. Like, just it's entitlement. He thinks like, look at dude. I listened to your story. I was following it, and I love your old movies like The Goonies and The Lost Boys. But there's a Corey Feldman. I don't know what happened to him, and I don't even think it's like he's a shitty actor. He just
I think Hollywood destroyed him as a human being.
Yeah.
definitely. The thing is, I have all that sympathy for him, comics, and the Corey Haim stuff and all the stuff he alleged had happened to him. I'm like, man, I feel so sorry for you. Let's if you're going to share it, let's hear it. Blah blah blah. Let's do the right things as a society. And then he doesn't tell the story, and so from that moment on, I'm like, yeah, Corey Feldman, never again.
Well, he did, but let's face it, his documentary was a big nothing burger.
Yeah.
Everything in it, everybody already knew or is pretty much hearsay.
Yeah, I definitely was. I was like, at the prospect of it, I was like, oh, finally, the truth is going to come out. And nope. Thanks, Corey Feldman. So let's talk about something that people do seem to like, Mandalorian. Now, this is just a brief segment because I wanted to address the show after last week when people thought, oh, all you guys are going to do is rip on it. No, I am surprised because for everything I said about the previous week's episode, the Baby Yoda Grogu Ahsoka Tano episode, this week's Boba Fett episode didn't feel like that. And yes, I had issues.
You mean Robert Rodriguez's Mandalorian?
Yeah, Robert Rodriguez.
You know what's sad? If you want to use that joke, to me, Robert Rodriguez's Mandalorian means it looks like it was shot in my backyard because I liked this episode a lot. But from all the Mandalorian episodes, it looked like it was just they just like, hey, we're going to go out to this hill and we're going to shoot it. And they didn't even have anything planned for the episode outside of that.
Well, put it well. He said, "This is the Mandalorian starting to feel like Power Rangers." That did look like
It did look
every Power Ranger.
It looked like a Power Rangers fight. I'll give it that.
That's funny.
All I know is if Robert Rodriguez is directing one of these, when the fuck am I getting my Tarantino one?
Never.
Well, you're gonna have like a stormtrooper like cut somebody's eye out or no ears off.
Baby Yoda be popping people's heads off and shit
Yeah.
and saying fuck.
He's so cute.
That'll be his first word. Quentin Tarantino's Mandalorian.
You get a lot of F-bombs and a lot of...
I'm gonna kill every last one of you motherfuckers. That's gonna be
Well,
Baby Yoda.
didn't you hear the big rumor though? Like, spoilers for anybody. This is a plausibility. I don't know how much of a plausibility, but the big rumor is that the Jedi that heard the calling and then they're going to hand Baby Yoda off to at the end is
Did you
Mace
say
Windu.
Yeah, everyone's been saying it's gonna be
Mace Windu. And
stop
if it's
watching
Samuel
the show.
Jackson, Tarantino, man, I'd be on board.
No, because it's... Look, we have seen Samuel L. Jackson in Star Wars, Tom. It's not going to all of a sudden go,
I know,
oh
but
my
come
God,
on
it's
now.
amazing. still Mace Windu.
I blame Lucas though for all that.
Yeah, but let's face it here. In my world, in my little headcanon, we got a moment in the Star Wars universe where Tarantino's directing, and all of a sudden they're about to kill Baby Yoda, and all of a sudden you hear, "Take your hands off that motherfucking baby."
I always love when they announced him. There were so many jokes going around about having my lightsaber. Which one's your lightsaber? What says bad motherfucker on it?
It does. His lightsaber does say bad motherfucker on it.
I know, but we needed the line.
I know, but I wish they could have it's so awesome. Fucking
Bam.
Did you know that, Jeff?
What, his lightsaber?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did know
I remember hearing the rumor, but I didn't know it was actually true.
You would always know it was him, even if you saw him in the group scenes.
Yeah,
It's the one that says bad motherfucker on it.
I always think of his wallet from Pulp Fiction.
Yep.
Anna has that wallet.
It's such a great scene. Have you guys ever seen the version of Pulp Fiction where somebody edited it chronologically?
No, but I'd be interested to see that.
It feels like every other movie you've ever seen. It's just whatever.
Well, what's funny is that Miramax wanted him to do that. They were like the Weinsteins were adamantly against him releasing the movie in that jumbled up form. They were like, nobody's going to get it.
Way more interesting.
Well, of course, it's the whole style of the movie. It's the point.
Yeah.
It's like you're jumping into a bunch of different pulp stories and you're reading them out of order, kind of thing. That's kind of the whole point. Yeah.
So now, Comics Division, did you get a chance to watch this past week's Mandalorian episode? And if so, what did you think?
I for what it was worth, I enjoyed it. It's like you said, there's a lot of issues with it, but some of the fight stuff was really badass. But I have a lot of complaints, specifically when they pull up the E-web and it's like you can't kill the chick. It's like you have this Gatling blaster and you can't hit a moving target. It's the thing that really kind of infuriates me with the series is how they disrespect stormtroopers so much and the Empire. They play them as being these kind of bubbling, incompetent idiots, which they weren't. It was a well-oiled bureaucracy. You had, the stormtroopers were supposed to be, pretty much the elite of the elite. You still had the Imperial Army, but the stormtroopers were supposed to be, very good shots. And again, because when the problem is when you only have 3 targets, which happen to be your main leads, they can't die, right? So they should have had more people to shoot at. There should have been more tension and stakes with that fight scene. As much as it was cool to see Boba Fett just bash the crap out of people with a gaffy stick, it just to a certain degree, in retrospect, it kind of rings hollow a bit.
Mecca, same question to you.
I didn't see it.
Fair enough, Tom.
This is a show that I've gone back and forth on, and I think we brought this up before, where it's like I'm constantly asking myself how I'd feel about this if we didn't have the Star Wars sequels. And I just, part of me enjoys it quite a bit. But again, like that hollow feeling you guys are talking about, and just the Disney-ness creeping in from time to time.
Well, not only that, he's like a guest star in his own TV series.
Right, but I don't even mind that so much, because I get it. He's supposed to be the character, the man with no name kind of thing, and he actually talks more than he probably should, to be honest with you. But
I think that's one of those things where that's an argument people will make to defend the show when they don't even want the show to be what that is.
Well, I think that's what the show was supposed to be to begin with, was like this character is supposed to be like the Clint Eastwood man with no name kind of guy. He kind of just drifts from story to story, kind of like the old Westerns, mixed with a little bit of the Eastern Kurosawa kind of influence. And I got that originally in the first season. In this season, up until the last couple episodes, it's been kind of just a lot of, it seems like we've had a very similar episode to this in the last one. And then we get to this bit with the Baby Yoda bit now and learning his name and a bit of his history and where he comes from. I have some issues, but then again, I'm okay with some things. But it's like, Ahsoka came in and I didn't really care about that. I don't have a Boba fetish. So like for this episode, it was like all this Boba stuff for me was just kind of like, yeah, okay.
I wouldn't say I have a Boba fetish, but it's like the whole appeal to Boba Fett is the mystery factor, right? This is kind of the problem when you have a mystery that everyone is hyped over the generations, and now you learn all about the character, and you're like,
I
Well,
blame that on George Lucas, though. I mean, I didn't
Yeah.
want to know that Boba Fett was a clone, and I didn't want
Well-
to see him as a child.
And I can almost guarantee you now that the Boba Fett series is either a prequel or a misdirect. Because I
It
can
has
almost
to be a misdirect, Tom.
I think
I
it's
can tell
probably
you
a
how this is
misdirect.
going to end now. The moment they blew up the Razor Crest,
He gets the ship. He gets Slave One.
he's going to get Slave One, and the moment Boba Fett says, "I'm not, my part of this isn't fulfilled until I help rescue the baby," Boba Fett's going to die saving that baby.
That's what I'm thinking too. I think a lot of people have speculated. I know that Culture has the answer, but he's not willing to part with it. And
I think that's kind of what he was hinting.
I think
towards,
that's what he was hitting at too when we were
because that's where
talking.
he's like, I don't think there's going to be a Boba Fett series, because he kept saying that for a while too.
Yeah, he did. I kind of got the hint off of that.
Which
It's
doesn't mean
hard
it could
to
be a
wait.
prequel though. But
Yeah.
anyway.
Well, Tom, why? So everybody that makes these Star Wars things wants to cash in on the original trilogy era. To do a prequel, you're going to get yourself in the situation that the Mandalorian show's in, because you can't really justify a Boba Fett show anymore.
Wait,
You
what's
can
the
in
point? Yeah,
one
what's the point
respect.
if you
In
know he's
one
dead?
respect,
What?
you need to tell us how the fuck he got out that Sarlacc pit.
He told us in the episode, dude. He told that story. That sand person that was talking and telling the story, even before he had revealed himself, I said, Jesse, that's Boba Fett telling how he got out of the
Oh,
fucking
that's
tunnel.
right. I forgot all about that.
Like,
Yeah.
To me, that is what modern Star Wars should be. Instead of a character saying, I did this, have a misdirect. Tell the story. It's like in the book The Disaster Artist. They tell you Tommy Wiseau's origin. They just don't say Tommy Wiseau comes from here and he was born on this date. Greg Sestero sits and tells you this yarn of a man who comes from Eastern Europe, who comes to America. His family doesn't treat him right. He has a car wreck, blah, blah, blah. But he never says it's Tommy Wiseau. But if you read the book, you very clearly see who it is. I loved that they did that with Boba Fett in was it the first or the second episode? I want more of that shit. Instead of Bo-Katan and Ahsoka and all this layered, or this lack of layered bullshit, it's like, hey, let me throw literally cartoon characters at you. Pick up a thread we've been wondering for 30 years, or almost 40 years at this point, 37 years ago when Return of the Jedi came out. Everyone's like, did he die? Well, he's not dead. He comes back. Really? How? Find out one day. And now we do. And it's really cool.
I didn't even really think of that part, but no, I'm going to go with maybe Human's excuse. The Sarlacc didn't eat him; he ate the Sarlacc pit.
Well, it's like they also covered that too in Dark Empire, where they run into Boba Fett again, and basically it's been a while. Either the Sarlacc didn't like the Beskar and spit him out, or he ended up blowing his way out, or something like that.
Well, I'm assuming the scars and stuff are probably from the acid in the stomach.
It's the same thing.
Yeah. No, I get it, I guess. No, that's fair. I don't really care that much. So, I mean, do I want a Boba Fett prequel? No.
I don't either.
But what it could be is a lot of what we've been wanting with this, because it could be a little bit more of the, he's more of a loner. So it could be a bit more of the whole kind of Western kind of thing, maybe, and just getting bounties and things like that.
Well, that's what we're supposed to get with this TV show.
That's what I'm saying. That's maybe what that could be. But again, I think it's more of a misdirect.
I think if we get a Boba Fett series, we'll have Baby Admiral Akbar.
Oh, God.
It's a trap.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is crap.
It's crap. Yeah.
I think Disney has, what's the word I'm looking for? Exhausted any kind of Mandalorian, bounty hunter, or sadly Western aesthetic in Star Wars, because they can't stay the course.
No, they can't.
If I can understand not liking anything, I get it. Even if you I love Beverly Hills Cop and Back to the Future, two of my favorite movies. If you said I absolutely dislike them and you gave me reasons, I'll go, hey, maybe I don't agree, but I can understand why you would.
Right.
I just can't understand how anyone could mistakenly give this world another shot, trying to do the exact same thing in it, because I can't see them ever getting to do this again. This was their shot,
And they kind of killed it.
and they killed it. And it's not me being the old man yelling at a cloud. It's like, you sold me this show, The Mandalorian. I said, hey, I've been burned by The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and The Rise of Skywalker soon, but I knew it was coming, and Solo. So I'm willing to give this show a shot. And what they told us the show would be, and what the show was, I was very impressed and I was very on board, and have been still. It's when it becomes the Star Wars new character of the week show, because everyone bitched when it was The Mandalorian was just on his adventure each week. I complain that each week some random Star Wars character that everyone seems to know just pops up. It's no different than episode 7. It's like, oh, Luke Skywalker's lightsaber. How'd that happen? Well, that's a story for another time. The story never happened, and we're left with a hole.
Yeah,
That's what a lot of in the Dave Filoni shit is. It's good for the fans that want that shit, but the overarching story suffers.
I think a lot of it too is that part of the issue with the first season is that they didn't necessarily know what they wanted to do, and I think a lot of us speculated that it was the repurposed Boba Fett script, and so that they kind of flip flop between being episodic, being linear, and obviously this season's more linear. But the one of the biggest issues, honestly, is Baby Yoda. He's kind of the boat anchor to this series.
Here's what I think happened, honestly. Like, I think you guys are not wrong to a point about it being kind of the repurposed Boba Fett thing. I think what it was, a lot of it, though, this was like Bob Iger bringing in Filoni and Favreau to be like, look, we need something to get the Star Wars fans back, right? And in the first season, I don't think Kathy had jack or shit to do with it. I believe at this point there's more than enough proof that the toy companies were just like, fuck you. When they looked at Baby Yoda, they're like, we're not even going to mess with this thing. We'll do the robot. We'll do Mandalorian, but we don't think this show is going to be all that. And that baby thing is not going to last. I don't even know if they thought Baby Yoda was going to last. But then Baby Yoda took off, right? So, like that first season, even though most of it was done or whatever when they first showed it, that doesn't mean they couldn't have went back and tooled things a little bit. And we know even like Pedro Pascal wasn't even cast until like the third or fourth episode. So like they had to go back and, he revoiced it and did whatever. So this show was kind of like built from the ground up and like almost like as it was going. But now the second season, now that it's a success and Baby Yoda's a big hit, it does feel a lot like Kathleen Kennedy is involved or something like that, because it's like, we need to get more of this and we need to get more of that. And it feels like there's a very corporate kind of oversight feel to it.
It's definitely more formulaic. And that's like my biggest complaint for this.
Because we've literally gotten like 3 episodes and we're about to get another episode that is almost exactly like an episode in the first season.
Well, yeah, exactly. And that was the thing I pointed out on Chris Knight's stream on Sunday, was the fact that we're basically getting a retread of the first season at this point. And if they actually just kept it where it's like, okay, you could tell a little bit more complex storytelling, right? I mean, he doesn't have to go planet to planet every episode. He can go to a planet and have like an arc that lasts maybe 2 or 3 episodes, and then move on to something else. I mean, I like the idea of the man with no name going from town to town searching for bounties. I mean, it's not a terrible formula. They did something like that with an older Fox TV show that was called Brimstone, where you have this cop that died. He went to hell and made a deal with the devil, and he's hunting down these souls that escape from hell. I mean, it's a very similar concept you could have done, but you could wrap more complex stories within that. But they didn't. And I think the biggest thing for me that was a disappointment with season 1 was the fact that we didn't get a guy going around hunting people down. We got in the first episode, and that was it.
And I think Script Doctor's right. I think the show, there you go, right on time there, Jeff. The show's following a formula of the first season and using as many episodes as they can to pitch characters for their own series. That's what it feels like.
Exactly.
It feels like a lot of times we're like, yo, you got to have Ahsoka in this one because we got to set her up for her series with, what's his face, the blue guy. I just forgot. Thrawn. And then like, same thing with the Boba Fett thing. It may not be a Boba Fett series, but either it's going to be the what's-her-face, the half-robot chick is going to take on his armor, and like we said, Mando's going to get his ship or whatever, and then she'll spin off into her own thing or whatever.
I think I will be
like, that's what it feels like.
That happens.
And I even feel like Gina and Carl Weathers are going to get their own series, probably like Marshals or something like that, where they're marshals of the outskirts, kind of thing, dealing with the wild west of the...
Hasn't Disney learned their lesson?
No.
They're going to Marvelize this.
Dude, they can't even get Obi-Wan Kenobi, one of the original Star Wars characters.
Well, let's not forget, that's still in the works, and that's sounding worse and worse all the time. And that sounds like Kathleen stuck her fingers in that shit. That's why,
totally does.
You know what? That almost confirms to me what I said before. She fucking knew what these fuckers were to begin with. She knew this thing was so much like The Mandalorian, but she didn't care at that point. At that point, I think she was out the door, but I believe the fucking stories are true, that she's digging in her fucking heels now.
Oh no, I think it's true as well. I mean, and it's pretty obvious that she has her fingers in the Obi-Wan TV series because now we all saw what happened with
Strong
the casting
female.
call.
Yes, that's what I was going to get to. Thank you, comics. All of a sudden they're changing the stories, and now it's a big old fucking.
It's going to be a woman leading Obi-Wan around by his nose. It's just like it's terrible.
I've seen a lot of people in the chat. The internet had a weird hiccup. Comics. Did you have anything else you want to add?
No, not really. Go ahead.
Oh, all I was gonna say is a lot of people are asking about Boba Fett. I know I might be in the minority. I was cool seeing him. I don't really like Tamara Morrison as Boba Fett. And you're thinking, well, Jeff, who else has played him? Jason Wingreen was the voice. The name escaped. Jeremy Bulloch played him in the film. Like, I don't need him to look like that, but I just didn't like him being a clone or seeing the face or whatever. I like the costume and the character and all that stuff. With that being said, I was pretty cool with seeing him come back in this regard. Yeah, people make the joke about
I thought he did a fine job. I think he looked a lot more menacing now that he's older and he's all like scarred up. So yeah. I think they did a pretty decent job with the character.
For the most part, this is one of the better episodes of the season.
Oh,
Don't
yeah,
get me wrong.
Sure.
As condescending as I sound, and I know you guys sound, I feel like we're still on an agreement that this was still probably one of the better episodes of the year. But
I agree with that statement 100%. I also feel like this episode is less heinous, but equal. But it is. Less people are going to.
Man's an idiot in this episode. I mean, he forgets the backpack. It's something I know that Script Doctor pointed out in his review, but it was something it's like I noticed too. It's like you have that dialogue where Boba says like, "Put down the jetpack." It's like, what? Don't put down the gun. Don't disarm your stuff. It's like, why? And then he runs around the entire episode. It's like, why didn't you get your jetpack? That makes no sense. And it's because it's being done because of plot, right? Because the Death Troopers come and they grab Baby Yoda and fly off, and they can't have him go after him. It's like, that's just dumb. It's lazy writing, and it's terrible. It's just absolutely terrible. But
I agree. I would say overall, I'm interested to see where this show's going to go. But I do agree there were writing contrivances. And I just put this out there, folks. Like, we can all like stuff, but you can also talk about it and critique it and discuss it. I think that's for sure. The important thing. And I always put this out there. I think it's more important to be able to discuss why you like certain things just as much as liking them. Because if you can verbalize what you like, you can find shit that's like the stuff you enjoy. So Jesse and I have this joke like, oh, it all looks like this, I'm gonna like it, or this person's in it, I'm gonna like it. The joke is, if it looks like James Bond, probably gonna like it. Then again, modern James Bond doesn't look like it, so that's why I don't like it.
Right. No, and I know a lot of people, if you drop into some of our conversations midstream, we could be talking about something we love, but we could be ripping apart. But that's the thing is, to me, that's healthy. The unhealthy thing is to just love whatever is shoved out there with whatever said name on it and, eat it up, even though it's obviously a piece of shit with Star Wars slapped onto it. It's like, dude, you're eating a literal piece of shit. It's like, I don't care. It's fucking Star Wars.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, like, I was getting some criticisms about, saying that the stormtroopers were good. It's like, a lot of those things happen because of plot reasons, right? The reason why R2-D2 and 3PO didn't get hit by blaster fire is because plot. But you have Obi-Wan saying, these blaster shots are too precise for Sand people. They're Imperial stormtroopers, and again, it's an issue with the plot when you have three people running around and an army of people, and this is in the original Star Wars movie.
Hold on,
and they can't get shot.
To be fair, though, they do address that. They're away. They've just escaped. They let them. The whole point of them on the Death Star was to let them run around and think they were doing shit, so they could track him back to the Rebel base and destroy him. So
exactly, that's the rationale behind it.
I will definitely. I'm with you. Like, yeah, it's convenient that our heroes get away, but like, with that one, since they wrote it into it and it makes sense because of the bigger implication how to get to the Rebel base, I always give Star Wars a pass. But other ones like Empire, Return of the Jedi, any big superhero movie that have like no stakes, the first Avengers,
Empire, right? You saw Rebels get killed.
I mean, our main heroes though. Like,
the biggest mistake. Go ahead. Sorry,
I was just saying, like, when they're on Cloud City. Vader wanted the princess and Chewbacca. He wasn't going to let them stay and he wasn't going to let them go. So they wanted to get them. Like, they did evade them that time. Like, the Imperial Army is not as ineffective as people like to argue, but they're not as effective as the movie likes to act like they are.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and yeah, the first film is really hard to find too many flaws in that aren't really kind of cosmetic.
Well, I mean, everyone likes citing the one guy that hit his head. You know?
Oh yeah, well even that's just a goof no. The biggest mistake the first movie makes is an editorial mistake, and it's not even there in the original form. It's because story-wise you don't need it, or it just slows the movie down. And that is, we don't get to introduce to our lead character until almost 20 minutes into the movie.
Yeah.
And see, Lucas he got away with that the first time for a good reason. When he tried to do that in episode 1, that was one of its biggest mistakes. And that's where those movies they meandered until the third film.
Yeah, he was trying to do the whole...
Because Obi-Wan should have been the main character instead of Anakin.
He should have.
And the problem is we don't meet Anakin until almost a fucking hour into episode 1.
He was the main character, though. I never looked at Anakin as being the main character. I always saw him as being
he did
secondary.
say he wrote it from that perspective, is that Anakin was, but yeah, like that was the bigger mistake, is that it should have been extremely more from Obi-Wan's point of view. Like it should have been Obi-Wan's story.
Yeah. Well, honestly, the trilogy really should have been Obi-Wan's story. Because one of the main issues with making Anakin the lead is because we all know he ends up becoming Darth Vader.
Exactly. Yes, we need to follow a hero.
Yeah, and you could definitely have that rise and fall. And this is kind of my problem with any kind of prequel, is that no movie that is a prequel is going to live up to the headcanon that you've had for 20 some odd 30 years. And that's one of the biggest issues, in my opinion, with the prequels, besides the fact that they suck. But
yeah, I mean, then we can go into different levels of that in a totally different conversation. But yeah.
But to me, it's like, Anakin Skywalker was always supposed to be like this Han Solo character, which is ultimately the reason why he falls, is because he was never meant to be trained as a Jedi. And the fact that they trained him as a kid, it's like, well,
even Yoda says that basically, like Luke is too
old.
Well, not just too old, but he's like too full of himself in so many words. And Anakin was kind of the same way. He was selfish and
brash.
That's
brash, what he was
exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, it's like I said, I just wish Gary Kurtz was still involved during the prequels, because I think we would have gotten something a lot better, because he would have stood up to Lucas and said, no, this was a bad idea.
Yeah, because you can't even tell.
Involved with Return to the Jedi.
No shit.
Well, I know
you can't even
left.
You can't even tell that Carrie Fisher did script doctoring on, I think, episode 2 and 3 it was she worked on. Like, that's how bad George muffed up that directing. I love George Lucas, but he's a shit director and a shit editor. Sorry.
Well, I think one of the biggest issues with somebody like Lucas is that he's definitely someone who benefits from collaboration and other people kind of keeping him in check. Because I think that when it comes to the big picture and the vision, I think he's really good at that stuff, but he's not grounded. And I think that's where, like Gary Kurtz comes in. Gary Kurtz grounded him. And yes, he didn't direct Empire, and obviously Empire being probably one of the best Star Wars movies ever made.
More Kirshner from what
it's probably more Kirshner. But I think the big thing is if he was kept grounded, and people, because if you ever watch the documentaries where he's explaining stuff and people are just smiling and nodding, and of course the reason why they're doing that is because he's George motherfucking Lucas, right? No one's gonna say anything to him, but they should have. They should have said, no, George, this is a bad idea. Don't do this. And if people actually stood up to him, I think we would have gotten much better prequels.
I agree with that 100%, dude. I always use the video footage of Rick McCallum when they're all like, "Oh, we've gone," or George goes, "I've gone too far," and Rick McCallum's just like,
"No shit."
You think?
I would like to see the editing mess that is the 4-hour cut of the Phantom Menace.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know. But I got Eric Jr. Maldonado. I never said anything bad about Disney Plus 18. I have no issue with it.
I just don't know why.
To come off that way.
Did you guys not see? Because we're going to talk about the streaming thing in a second. But did you guys not see the Discovery Plus or whatever it was? Jesse, what was that streaming service that was like Discovery Channel, Food Network?
It's Discovery Plus.
Yeah, Discovery Plus. Yeah.
I saw a commercial for it today.
Well, that's Disney jump off too there.
Oh, that's Disney still?
They own Discovery. Oh, no, never mind. They own National Geographic, not Discovery. My bad. No, Discovery, it would be, I think they're their own company then, yeah.
Because I would argue, if Disney owned this streaming service, then we really need to get into the whole monopoly talk, because they're really cornering the market, like across the board.
No.
Buying up everything.
I
Like,
forgot
all
it's
the
National
ideas.
Geographic. Yeah.
It's Discovery's on zone, I believe.
Now let's read some of the super chats, and then I would like to talk about Tom's favorite part of the night. He's salivating talking about this. So first off, our friend Boag says, JMS, Sins of the Father, one more day. So thank you, Boag. For J. Michael Straczynski, the thing I was having the problem with remembering was I knew Dan Slott took over. I knew Bob Gale also wrote One More Day. So I didn't remember if Dan Slott wrote the very first book post J. Michael Straczynski. I thought there was a rotating triumvirate of guys, and I thought Dan Slott was not the first of the three. So that's why my brain went Bob Gale, who wrote Back to the Future, because it's important. So that's why I remembered that. But thank you, Boag. 007 Cloud says, I wonder how many times Tom Holland will say Dr. Octavius in his soy voice. That's a soy I can make it. Mr. Stark.
I like Tom Holland. I'm sorry. I do.
Dude, let me don't apologize ever for having an opinion around.
No. I mean, I get it. A lot of people are pissed off about it, but like I unapologetically enjoy his character, his characterization. I don't mind the updated. I don't like some of the characters in their forms they are now, and I would prefer the original versions. But I was sold in that, and I didn't even like the second Spider-Man movie, mind you, as much as the first, but I was sold in that scene in the car between him and Michael Keaton. And that little fucker held his own.
He has moments, but the issue with this version of Peter Parker is that he's not saddled with responsibility. You know,
he is, but he isn't. I mean, and I get it. People are like, "Oh, but he's just Iron Man Jr." But the whole point of Homecoming is he gets everything taken away from him, and he has nothing that's but his own stuff at the end there to fight with. So, like that one, I kind of argue with. The second one is kind of meh, but like, no, I mean, just that scene between that. I mean, Tom Holland held his own with Michael Keaton.
No, he did.
I mean, that's like stepping in the ring with Mike Tyson, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, but then again, Jason Mewes could hold his own with Alan Rickman in that one scene, but I wouldn't call him, in the same
but Jason Mewes was completely unaware of what the fuck he was doing.
Not on Dogma. Dogma's the one where he had to clean his shit up and get right.
Well, yeah, but to a point, you still got to admit, though, there's a difference between Jason Mewes interpreting, I'm doing a scene with Alan Rickman, and Tom Holland going, I'm doing a scene like this with Michael Keaton. To those two people, that means two different things on completely different levels.
Well, if you actually look at Jason Mewes and Clerks and then Mallrats, I mean, it's pretty apparent that he finally learned to act, because he was actually...
No, I get that. But like, I mean, I'm just saying, like, to Jason Mewes, he was just like, oh yeah, that's Hans Gruber, cool. And I got to keep myself cool because, like, yeah, Kevin's going to fire me if I don't stay straight. That part's true, Jeff. And he knew he was going to have to hold his own, and he memorized that whole fucking script.
Yep.
Like, you're right. He did. I mean, as far as coming in pro for that movie, he totally did. But I don't feel like he had that kind of like nervousness of going up against somebody like Alan Rickman in the same way as like Tom Holland going toe to toe to Michael Keaton.
Well, I think Tom Holland shines when he's not in his world. Like some of his better moments, like in Infinity War, when Doctor Strange, like, my name's Doctor Strange, and he goes, "Oh, we're using our made up names. I'm Spider-Man."
Oh, yeah, that was funny.
No other actor that played Spider-Man could pull that off. I actually paused that scene and said to Jesse, I love Tobey Maguire, but he couldn't have done this scene.
Yeah, those are the moments that to me are Spider-Man. Absolutely.
Well, yeah, it's that sarcasm that Spider-Man has, that it's that quick wit, that biting wit that he has. That's Spider-Man. That's the reason why I like Andrew Garfield, because he actually had that biting wit when he was playing Spider-Man.
Yeah, there's so many other things missing.
Oh, there were a lot of things missing, but
But the only thing with Andrew Garfield is more snark than it was wit. If that makes sense.
Well, since we're talking, it does make sense, Tom. One thing too, I wish most people would keep in mind is there's so many different iterations of like the way Spider-Man's written, and then there are certain versions or certain things that are hallmarks, and his version misses a lot of the hallmarks. Where I just go, I get it. He's funny. He's snarky. But he's not Deadpool. Like you gotta get the heart.
Not only that, Andrew Garfield spent more time with the mask off than I think Tobey Maguire did.
Yeah, that's a problem for me, dude. I don't want to look at his face. I want to look at Spider-Man.
Well, that was the thing, because he's always like, his hair is always perfect.
Did you ever see the unedited footage that they shot? Part of the reason why I think they didn't like not Tom Holland, Garfield was apparently when he was wearing that suit, the dude's got a really big schlong and it was showing, and they actually had to edit out of the movie. Yeah, if you actually see like the raw stills, it's pretty funny.
Oh, that's kind of funny. No, that's the thing.
What you're telling me is it's just like the old Batman show with Burt Ward. That was their focus. Like, oh my God, there's too much bulge on Batman. We got to keep the kids safe.
We can't have that. He can't have a bigger bulge than Batman.
Sorry, Adam.
No.
I guess that's the case.
I'm sorry. We're going to have it cut off.
Yeah, our friend Connor, since we're talking about Spider-Man, Connor says, do you think it was always the plan for Spider-Man 3 to adapt Spider-Verse?
No.
No. I think this is a completely new idea. But no, just to jump off what we were saying before about Garfield, I don't think he's a bad actor, but Andrew Garfield should have been playing like what's his face, Osborn.
Oh, Harry.
Harry, he'd be better as Harry or something like that.
I agree. Yeah, I think the reason why they're doing it is because of Flashpoint.
Yeah,
that's a big reason why. Yes, between that and Spider-Verse, not only won an Oscar, but I do think, regardless of how I feel about the film, I do realize it's popular, and I do realize it sold a lot of videos.
Now,
listen to my old ass DVDs and Blu-rays. Sorry.
I was gonna say one thing to keep in mind though too. May have won an Oscar, but so did Spider-Man 2. So I mean, other Spider-Man films have won Oscars, and no Oscar is better than another Oscar.
What did it win an Oscar for?
Best animated feature. Oh, you mean Spider-Man? It was special effects. I think
Spider-Man 2 special effects.
Okay. Did it win one for editing or sound editing or something like that too? Because I think it won like 2 or 3. But you could be right. It might have been.
Well, those movies came out during and post Lord of the Rings when the Academy and the world was enamored with a lot of that on screen, but the real world reflected, the success. And by the way, Spider-Man won Best Visual Effects 2005, John Dykstra. So he also won for Star Wars. And then it was nominated for sound editing and sound mixing.
Oh, so it didn't win them all, but it was nominated. I was going to say, I knew it was nominated for like 3, yeah.
And see, the first film was nominated for Best Special Effects and Best Sound Mixing, which it did not win either. And then
which is sad because there is shots, and that's one of the few movies where there's like 2 shots in that first Spider-Man movie where I was actually tricked and did not know they were CGI. The one that I remember first off is the fire scene where he jumps up and spins away from the pumpkin bombs. I did not realize that was CGI. I just figured it was Tobey Maguire just jumping in front of a green screen. But when they show it in the making of it, I was like, wow. Because I'm usually never tricked by CGI. So,
and just think it's almost 20-year-old CGI.
Exactly. And the same thing speaks for Jurassic Park. That CGI still holds up better than the modern shit sometimes.
I remember this being one of the focal points of the marketing campaign for that first Spider-Man movie.
One of the best CGI shots ever, period.
I agree with that statement. For as much as I love all the final swings, they always look a little... And you know what I think it is, Tom? It's the weight of Spider-Man, and because the scene is in slow motion, I think they're able to manipulate the physics of his body, which there are a lot of shots in these older films where they're very photorealistic. I'm just talking Spider-Man, the character, not everything. But there's a lot of shots where the Spider-Man model is very photorealistic, but because he doesn't move...
Exactly, yeah.
He doesn't have the right weight through the space he's traveling. He looks fake at times. This scene is in slow motion, and it's so slow and intensive and labored that it looks like a real guy.
Who was the effects head on this?
Sony did it technically. It's the Sony ImageWorks, I think, is who the house is. But John Dykstra.
I was going to say, was it Dykstra? That's why, because he's old school and he understands lighting. That's one thing I think is a lot of these newer guys don't understand lighting. Lighting kills so many CGI effects, and that's why Jurassic Park and a lot of some of the older stuff does look a little bit better when the CGI was spot on, is because the lighting is 100% right. Like
I think lighting and reflection. I mean, that's one thing. Yes. It's like, as much as I hate the Transformer stuff, but Michael Bay did a fantastic job with the CG effects for the original Transformers movie he did.
Until they're fighting. Like when they're standing still or hardly moving, they look good. But once they start fighting, it's like watching Gumby fight himself on Gumby. I can't tell where one starts and where the other one ends.
Well, yeah, that's just, I think, a problem with the designs. But I think overall he did a fantastic job with the CG.
To a point, yeah. But other than that, the best to this point that I've seen has been the Planet of the Apes.
Let me rephrase that. The rendering.
Yeah, the rendering. Yeah, the Planet of the Apes films, because there were shots, and especially that last one, where I'm like, I know this is CGI. but it looks so photorealistic.
Yeah, they did a great job with that movie.
That last movie, I mean, that's probably one of the few times where I know CGI characters have really kind of got to me. Well, and of course, that again has everything to do with Andy Serkis.
Yeah,
because he also made Kong so believable in that Kong movie, whether you like it or not. I'd still say he did a great job in portraying Kong.
Now, our friend Bobby James just wanted to say hi, or hey, friend. So, hey, Bobby James, what's up? We haven't heard from you in a while, buddy. So, good to have you back, man. Our friend, the Islington girl says, for the D-bags with flying cars. Well, thank you, the Islington girl, for that super chat. Taker610 has a question. Any of you seen Roger Corman's unreleased F4 film? I can say yes, I have.
Yes.
No, I have not.
Mecca?
No.
You should. Mecca
It's
Comics.
cheesy fun.
Check it out. It's the best, dude. It's cheesy. It's the best Fantastic Four movie.
It is. I've talked about actually finishing it off because, not effects wise, but audio wise, because there's a version out there that's leaked online. That's a DVD rip. And
That's the one from the 90s, right?
Yeah, and I pretty much know how it got out there. But anyhow, the only thing that's not done on it is the audio mix. They were going to overdub like Doom's voice and stuff like that, and so yeah, the audio mix is shit. But
I remember seeing that movie for rent at Blockbuster back in the 90s.
Actually, they never got released.
I swear I saw it.
You may have saw a poster but it never did get released. Actually, yeah.
The Captain America film got released at Blockbuster.
Yeah, it did.
I definitely remember watching that one.
The one where he's got the rubber ears.
It blows my mind that guy's dad wrote Catcher in the Rye.
Yeah. Christopher Nolan in disbelief.
Now, Tom, you've been covering a lot of the change in the way we're consuming media pretty heavily. You've covered this very, very well. So last week we talked about the bombshell story. I got invited on the Midnight's Edge stream about how HBO Max had announced that their entire 2021 lineup was going to be heading to Warner Brothers announced that it was going to have their lineup go to HBO Max. Last week we were caught off guard. We were shocked. We were surprised. And now we have the implications of the effects being felt on Hollywood. So Christopher Nolan is in disbelief over Warner Brothers' HBO Max deal. Are we surprised that Christopher Nolan does not like this?
No, not at all.
No.
So here's what he has to say. Christopher Nolan expressed disbelief that Warner Brothers will debut its 2021 films on its streaming service HBO Max the same day as it hits theaters. There's such controversy around it because they didn't tell anyone, the filmmaker told ET Online in an interview published Monday. In 2021, they've got some top filmmakers in the world, and they've got some of the biggest stars in the world who worked for years, and in some cases on these projects, very close to their hearts, that are meant to be on big screens for that experience. They're meant to be out there for the newest, for the wildest possible audiences. And now they're being used as a loss leader for the streaming services, for the fledgling streaming service, without any consultation, he continued. So there's a lot of controversy. It's very, 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 very messy. So Tom, it's a real bait and switch.
Which is funny because I just talked to Ed today. But anyway, this is exactly what I've been fucking saying for weeks they were going to do. And this is exactly why there's all this controversy now, because all these people are saying, wait a minute. You did this all for HBO Max and not because theaters are closed. Because if that was the case, then you wouldn't have announced your entire 21 slate was going straight to HBO Max. You fucking liars. That's what they're being called right now, basically.
Yeah, I didn't realize that it was a secret move. When we heard it, I assumed that everyone in the industry knew, signed NDAs, and we're just waiting for shit to happen. So,
well, they did dot a few I's and cross a few T's, but they didn't do all of them. And this is what we were talking about earlier and yesterday on the show, and this is what I brought up just before we found out that because I said they had to have worked something out with Legendary, but evidently they didn't, or if they did it under a guise of a totally different way that Legendary's pissed, because Legendary has part of Dune and Godzilla vs. Kong, and that was what I was told by my guy, is that they have to get Legendary to sign off. So that was our assumption when that, if you remember, Jeff, I said that was my assumption, is that they must have got a deal rolling with Legendary then. Because what I heard also was this, let me see if I can bring it up here. I can't find the deal now, but I can't remember the name of the guy who or the group that posted, the news organization that posted it on Twitter 24 hours before this stuff dropped. But evidently, Gal Gadot was aware this was going to happen, and she got a $10 million payday.
Good for her.
But the people who didn't were Will Smith and a bunch of other people that have movies that are involved in this deal now, I guess, and they're pissed. Keanu Reeves, I think, was another one. Their representative said something about it.
Well, right now, Gal Gadot's the money. I mean, as much as I love Will Smith, he's kind of old news.
Well, this is what goes into why, and this goes right into why Nolan's pissed. All these other people are pissed. Is HBO Warner Brothers throwing these on HBO Max means that they've completely obliterated any back end points. Now, granted, there may not be any points involved here because look at Christopher Nolan. He's bitching, but Chris, your movie didn't even make enough money for you to make any back end points, I bet. So that's the other thing.
Nobody showed up to the theater. That's why.
So really what they gave Gal was kind of a gift because there is no way that fucking Wonder Woman's going to make that kind of money. Because basically, even let's say if she has a 10% on the points of the, I think it would be the gross, not the net, right? Or is it the other way around? Either way, toward $10 million. Okay. So that means that they were expecting the movie to make almost $1 billion probably, right? That's my guess. That's why they wrote her that check. Is because she must have been an executive producer or she had a back-end deal on her contract. And it must have been a hell of a back-end deal. Because that's a lot of fucking money.
I'm looking at this, and it's just, it makes me kind of chuckle how poorly this was all organized. But at the same time,
gross.
It makes me question,
thank you, script doctor. Sorry, Jeff.
Well, dude, you don't have to apologize. I get it. All this stems from value for me. Like these films don't have any value to this company. It was funny, Jesse. We had that talk about loss leaders. Christopher Nolan called all these big budget films a loss leader for HBO Max.
Yep.
Yeah, they absolutely are.
And that's what we've been saying. Yeah.
And I love the phrasing that he used though, because if you've worked in retail, that's something that means a lot to everybody. And holy shit, that is what these are. And it almost makes the movies less special because it shows them as the product that they are to these studios. And now that the studios publicly do not worry about the pomp and circumstance surrounding their projects, it used to be a big event. You go, you see the red carpet premieres on TV. Then it got relegated to cable at E. You'd see the Spider-Man premiere. Then it was relegated to online. Now this, now that. Like, we're watching Hollywood change. The pomp and circumstance isn't there, and now the movies don't even come out anymore.
Well, I think a lot of that too is the fact that Americans just stopped going to the theater. I mean, this is, like I said, it's been in slow decline for like the last 20 years.
Adam Wofford, I didn't miss any. A couple of them that were topical I read in when they popped up, but I didn't read them all in order yet. So, Adam, I have read a handful of yours. If there's a specific one you're waiting for, you do not have to wait.
To address sorry about that, Jeff. I'm sorry.
What did I say? Adam, don't restart your phone. Anyway, Tom, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, to address what Comics just said, though, you're right to a point, but last year they had a record year.
Well, yeah, they did. But
a big portion of that went into Disney's pocket. That's the thing.
Well, yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, remember, I mean, if you take a look at what's been going on, at least for the last decade, more and more movies have been made for overseas, specifically China. And it became very apparent with the Transformers movies.
Oh, absolutely.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, they had a big year because of all the Marvel films, and let's be honest here. If we weren't reviewing movies for for channels, what would you actually be going to see?
A lot of them I would have just because I'm a fan and that's why I do this. But no, I get your point exactly. Like there are some that I wouldn't have for sure.
I would not have seen Birds of Prey.
Absolutely not. Yeah. Great example. But no, like again, this just goes to the point I was making before about like, yeah, a lot of people aren't buying Blu-rays right now, but if these movies are incentive for people to sign up, sooner or later there will be more than enough people signed up to pay for these bigger tentpole films. Right, the money will come in, and AT&T is the only one right now who's positioned to afford to do this as a loss leader in quotations, because they're only loss leaders until they get enough subscribers to sustain the cost of these kind of movies.
Yeah.
Like that's where they're at. Like, and they're the only ones that are in this position to take this gamble right now. But the fact that they're being called out just it tickles me because that's what I've been fucking saying, and everybody's kind of been like, "Oh no, it has more to do with theaters being closed." I'm like, "No, it don't."
Well, I think there's two factors. I think you're absolutely right with the assessment. They want to release on the streaming services because they get to keep the money, provided that they have the ability to make the money off the streaming service. So if they're charging a premium, again, that goes right into the company's pocket. I think that a lot of it is that they're using the COOF as an excuse, and and currently, no one's going to show up to the theaters anyway. So it makes sense for them to drop it on the streaming service. But it's just going to hasten the demise of theaters.
And now I was getting to your last point before that was just that. Yeah, theaters have been on the decline, and a lot of it's just because the studios have been starving them more and more and more over the years. I mean, Disney gets a lot of flack for it, but it really goes all the way back to George Lucas with the prequels. That was the first time I remember that theaters were just like, ugh, I can't fucking believe this. Or maybe even it was Godzilla, perhaps. One of those two incidences where basically they're like, no, I want 75% of the opening weekend. And then I want 65% and then 50 and down the line. And then all the studios started getting ballsy and doing that with all their big releases, not just Disney. But Disney has been more worse about it because I think they wanted 90% of Infinity War and Endgame's opening weekend.
They did.
So think about that. That's what I'm saying. Like, people bitch about the way theaters are, but I've talked to somebody who owns an independent theater.
What's the reason why you're basically spending $10 on a frickin' drink is because that's where they make their money at. It's the reason why they're so adamant about you not bringing stuff in. So it's like, if you want your theater to survive, spend the $20 on food.
Well, there's not just that, but oh, sorry, Jeff. I was just going to say
the comparison I always make is like when you go to a restaurant, if the cook fucks up your food, don't bitch at your waitress. They didn't fuck up your food.
Yeah, well, yeah,
so
I agree.
Theater, yes, I understand theater prices are high, but it's in response to the industry dicking them over. So like,
I don't blame the theaters for charging $10 for a freaking soda. I mean, they have to. I mean, that's the only way they're going to survive. And like I said, it's the reason why I always go to concessions whenever I go to a theater, because I know that's where they make their money.
Well, I talked to an independent theater owner, and that bounces right into what I was going to say anyway, just before. And that was what she was saying is like, we've come to this point where they are taking so much of the opening weekend's money, which is the bulk of the money that comes in for any movie.
They have inflated budgets.
And not only that, the theaters are paying rental fees on top of it. So 9 times out of 10, they're out money. They don't start making money on a movie. She told me flat out, like, it's not till the second or third week a movie's out where that's their money. And they're lucky to bring in a couple $100 on a movie. And that's where she said, like, that's where the studios have basically tightened so much that all the things that we bitch about at theater is a result of them tightening their grip more and more and more. The higher priced popcorn, soda, candy, not having enough ushers to deal with assholes with phones, the sticky floor because they don't have enough ushers to come in there and clean, long ass lines for everything because there's not enough ushers to do shit. Like, that's another, they can't afford to hire. You have this one theater I went to, they constantly had issues with movies playing the wrong movie in the theater projectors because they only had like 1 or 2 guys handling 15 fucking screens.
Yeah.
So like they were literally on walkie-talkies bouncing back and forth. And it's like, this is chaotic fucking mess. And it's all because they're understaffed. Yeah.
The theater I go to is actually a local chain. So it's not an AMC. It's called Santikos. And Old Man Santikos is a real estate guy. So he owns all of his buildings. So he's not paying. The only thing that he's paying for those buildings is taxes. But
Right.
I think that that's the only way theaters are going to survive is that if the chain or the independent theater actually owns the building.
Well, and I think that's what we're going to see is a resurgence in the independents and things like the Alamo Draft House.
Well, yeah.
You're going to see the more experience be like, we're going to get both. The theaters aren't going to die out, but I think the theater chains are dead. I think what Warner did here was dropped a fucking nuclear bomb on the theater chains. And Script's right here. This is how these streaming services are going to make money. Eventually you get, and that's where they're at right now. They only have 8 million subscribers right now. They actually have 30 million inactive subscribers. That's 30 million people who have access to HBO Max and don't even realize it. They haven't activated their subscription.
Dude, we have access to it. We don't pay for it.
Yeah, we have access through Amazon.
Oh, you can get it through there?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah, Amazon's becoming a hub. That's why they're a sleeping giant. Everybody forgets about them. They have just about as many subscribers as Netflix does worldwide.
Yeah, I had Disney Plus up to the point where I canceled it because Verizon was wanting to start charging me in November.
And they're smart about that because not only they're a hub, and I just seen this today. Some other company signed a deal with MGM, signed a deal with Amazon to be their hub for all their movies. So from now on, no matter where you're watching it, it originates from Amazon's servers.
It's actually smart. That way they don't have to kind of deal with the infrastructure because
there's not only that, and then Amazon puts a little extra money in their pocket no matter where you're watching it.
Hosting is another thing that is very big on the real estate business because data centers are not cheap, and if your company actually
server
owns
farms
data,
and shit,
so it actually makes sense. It's very smart for them to do that because they don't have to own the infrastructure at that point. Because the most expensive thing in a data center is the network. Traffic, it's expensive.
Exactly, and that's where an HBO Max. And another reason why they did this, not to go off topic too far, is they wanted to push Fire Stick or whatever that doesn't have it on there yet, or Roku or whatever.
Oh yeah. It's not on our Vizio either. We have to stream it to
it's on a couple of things that it's not on yet, so they're like forcing these other companies to come to the table now and negotiate because a lot of them are giving HBO Max the cold shoulder over their dealings with AT&T.
Yeah.
Now, do you think we are worse off this week than we were last week?
I don't think. Well, the consumers are the ones who are going to kind of win in this, and I hate calling us consumers in this case because that's how they see us at this point.
But we really are.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, at this point in this instance, we're more consumers because look at it this way: on Christmas Day, we're all going to have an opportunity to watch Wonder Woman and not have to leave our houses.
That bothers me though.
I mean, I miss the theatrical experience, but at one point though, honestly, if it was, and that brings us back to that original question you just asked a little bit ago, if it wasn't for the channel, no, I wouldn't have seen Wonder Woman 2 in theaters. I did not like the first one. And I know enough about this second one that I would have waited for video.
Same here. I know enough about it too that I'm glad it's being released on streaming because I don't want to pay for it.
Ugh. I'm saddened though because I wanted the Wonder Woman franchise to be
here
something more. Like, it almost got away from a lot of the identity politics concerns that a lot of people had prior to the film. I'm not saying it's perfect or removed from everything. It doesn't even make necessarily make every movie terrible or anything like that. But that movie was just so close to having like something that made it classic, if that makes sense. It was very good, but it wasn't Batman 89 good or Superman 78 good.
Like Godzilla versus Kong is the one I'm more saddened by not probably getting to see on the big screen.
I was gonna go out to see that one because Godzilla, any kind of big thing, any spectacle movie, like I'm going to pay the $20 to go see it and get my popcorn and spend 2.5 hours amazed at how giant Bryan Cranston's head is. But I'm going to have fun. And I don't mind paying the money for it. I hope the option is out there for a while because I'm not yet ready to give up.
Yeah, for that one and Dune, I would probably especially if they do like an IMAX 3D or something. Oh yeah, but
the two movies I actually wanted to see this year was 1917 and Tenet. Those are like the only the two films that I remotely gave a shit about.
I mean, I got to see most of what I wanted to see this year so far outside of Ghostbusters, and I mean, Godzilla vs. Kong is coming soon enough now, so...
I forgot Bill and Ted, which I still haven't seen.
Yeah, so I saw Bill and Ted, and Bad Boys 3 was much better than I anticipated it being, and I mean, we had Sonic. I mean, outside of that, that's all I really needed out of this year, to be honest with you.
You weren't excited for the re-release of The Rise of Skywalker?
The what now?
Exactly.
What?
I was more excited I found 4K 77 and 4K 83, so...
Hook me up with that.
Yeah, they're big files. I'll get them for you, though. They're going to take you a while to make sure you got something that you're going to be able to fit them on, man.
Oh, I have multiple 5 terabyte hard drives just
cool.
sitting around here.
Okay,
so.
Yeah, you'll be fine. But yeah, they're like the first one's not so bad. It's like 17 or 18 gigabytes, but the Empire or Return of the Jedi is like 60 some gigabytes. It's huge.
I don't even remember how much space is on my NAS.
And there's a bunch of special features too if you want them.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that one.
There's a bunch of 16 millimeter rips of like from Star Wars to Jedi and a couple other documentaries and stuff and trailers. Even the Revenge of the Jedi trailers in there.
Now, our friend 007 Cloud says they had some nice milkers in the Friday the 13th remake. LOL. I'm also biased.
That I won't disagree with.
I agree with that. I'm biased too because it's one of the coolest moments in my life. Took 2 girls to the movie, so it was way cooler than it sounds. But anyway,
the thing that's gonna suck about that though is you're not gonna get those classic teenage horror movies like we used to get.
Did you say teenage horror movies?
Teen A horror movies.
Oh.
Not
I was
teenage. No.
No, the TNA.
Well, they're playing teenagers, but yeah.
I didn't
playing
mean like
teenagers.
implying anything weird. I just meant like because that was usually the trope, like the teenager camp counselor stuff like that. I thought you meant like that we needed that back.
Well, they did used to call them teen sex comedies as far as like the comedy side of things, but no, I know. Either way works.
Because you can put Jason in a hyper realized 1980s, back with the teen camp counselors, back with the adults that are off being idiots and playing into the joke, or you gotta, I guess, make it believable, which would take the fun out of Friday the 13th. I mean, Tom, remember in part 6 that Alice Cooper song's playing and Jason stabs the dude in the head as he's driving the RV and the fucking thing just flips over?
Oh yeah.
See, now 6 is like my favorite one besides like
Same
the
here.
first one. So like, I think you can do one even now and even set it now. There's no problem with that. You just got to keep it in the Friday the 13th universe. The best thing about him being in the woods, cell phones don't work in the woods.
That's true.
All you need is just one scene where everybody's like, I can't get shit for service. Yeah, I can't. Well, so much for getting onto Twitter.
Now, I will say...
And those are teenagers you'd want to see kill.
Oh, absolutely.
007 Cloud, though, Jared Padalecki, we're working our way through Supernatural. We just watched the one with the prophet, the guy who writes the books. Chuck. I like Jared Padalecki as an actor enough that I would watch other shit he's in. We should watch the Friday the 13th remake with him.
It starts out okay, but it feels like you're getting way too much in the first hour, and then it just goes totally downhill. I'll admit it's not as bad as I make it sound, but just to me, the fact that they crammed in the first 3 movies first 4 movies or so, 3.5 movies in that first movie, to me just bothered me. Because when they announced it, I told my buddy, I'm like, you watch. There's no way they're going to have the balls to actually remake Friday the 13th and fuck with all these kids' heads. You know, the first poster we see is going to be that fucking hockey mask. And sure shit, that's what it was.
That's true. Let's see. Our friend Shadow Fenrir, we did read that one about his Boba Fett kills. Connor, we read his. Adam Walford, we read your Dune one as well as your cartoon one. Eric DeHoff says, hi, Tom, Jeff, Comics, and Mecca.
Hi.
Hello, Eric DeHoff.
How's it going?
Hello.
Have you guys seen, and Jeff Turner Breeze says, have you guys seen Tucker and Dale versus Evil?
Yes.
Oh, that movie is fantastic.
Love that movie.
10 out of 10, dude. Love it.
Oh,
Hey, Comics,
so
if we
good.
ever do a commentary for it, I'm going to call you up.
Oh, please do. Please do. Let me know so I can rewatch it.
Well, the thing is, when I do commentaries for films, like, I guess we could call that an obscure movie. It's nice to populate a stream with people that love the film because it's fun to talk about this shit for 2 hours.
That, by the way, is a sequel I'm excited for if it does come.
Tucker and Dale too?
Yeah.
I'll sign up for that right away.
Because they only made it specific. It's an Alan Tudyk project. He's going ham on it because the fans made it clear they wanted it. So the two of them decided, we'll come back and make a sequel for the fans. It's very like in the spirit of Bill and Ted.
Yeah.
I'm about that. I'm about that life.
Let's see. Adam Walford, thank you very much. He says, I was 13 at the time. I didn't have a $90 to buy a VCR, and I still haven't found it on YouTube or pirate sites. I have tried to dig more info, but nope. That is in regards to the Dune cartoon, Tom, that Adam Walford mentioned earlier.
Yeah, somebody sent, I think somebody, if not him, I don't think it was him, sent me something here just a little bit ago on Twitter that is somebody's reconstruction or something like that. But yeah, I'll check into that too. But yeah, thanks anyway, man. But yeah, I'll definitely have to tell Andre about that. He'll be like, what?
Our friend JNat says, still think Harmy film kick-ass on my setup, Tom. So I guess what JNat's saying is the Harmy film edit of Star Wars looks amazing on his setup?
Yeah, those are pretty good. I mean, don't get me wrong. They're great. I mean, the 4K 77, though, I almost cried when I watched, part of the first film, because it's like, because the thing with the Harmy editions is he tried to fix the color timing, but those are all taken from between the Blu-rays and DVDs and an HD broadcast of the original special edition. So it's like still not quite the original. And when I watched it, it was just like it had that warmth to it. It felt like a 1977 film when I was watching it. You know what I mean?
I need to get a copy from you as well.
Now, who does the one that I have the issue with? I like Harmy's, but whoever does the one where they add the special effects, there's another version that somebody goes in and does that, and fans seem to like it.
I'm trying to remember which one, but
Despecialized?
No.
Harmy is the despecialized.
Oh, okay.
There's like another edit name. Somebody in the chat.
I can't remember what's it called either, but like, yeah, the Harmy one is just, he just went and basically used CGI to undo everything they did.
Also, I just want to give a quick shout out to listener Remington 30666. Todd and the Book of Pure Evil is a fantastic show. Thank you for telling people about it. Folks, if you're looking for a great series that got cut down in its prime, Todd and the Book of Pure Evil. The Book of Pure Evil is like the Necronomicon, and each week a new villain is spawned from the high school that the book has turned evil. So it's fun. Have you guys ever seen it or heard of it?
No, I haven't.
No.
Mecha, I feel like even though we've only met that one time, I feel like it might be right down your alley, especially with like all the music and all the cool stuff. It's like if you're a genre fan of anything from mystical magic stuff to sci-fi to geekery to like vintage rocks, like 80s heavy metal and shit, it's awesome. It's one of the coolest shows out there, and it just sucks because it wasn't that popular.
Yeah, if you can find Brimstone, that's a great TV show too. It was only one season, and it was on Fox, which we all know why it got canceled then.
It was Fox.
It was good.
Fox was terrible for canceling things after a season. I got to the point where after like 5 or 6 things got canceled, I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna wait until after they're done to see if they even survive.
Well, I found out about it because it was running on
right.
Sci-Fi back when it was actually called Sci-Fi, not Sci-Fi.
Yeah.
But it was it was a great show. I thought originally it was a sci-fi series, and no, it was a canceled Fox show that they were rerunning, but it was so good.
Don't you hate that?
Oh yeah, I do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I hate that too. I was like Mecha too. A lot of times I'd wait. Like that was why I waited for like Breaking Bad and a few other shows I haven't seen yet.
Keen Eddie was another really good show that Fox murdered.
Are you talking about Firefly?
No, Keen Eddie.
Oh, I remember that show. This is the dog show, right?
Yeah, well, the guy had a dog, yeah, but it was the New York cop in London.
Oh, okay. See, they put them like all those shows that people clamor for. They seem to be on at weird times. I would only catch the tick at like the ass end of after I was watching SmackDown. So I wonder if certain shows just Fox doesn't get it.
Yeah, they would always do that kind of like shuffling schedule, and part of the thing that killed Keen Eddie was also the writer's strike, because it came out that summer, and they ended up swapping it with this reality TV show called Paradise Hotel, and it became like really difficult to find. But it was so brilliantly done. I think probably it was maybe a little bit ahead of its time. In a lot of ways, it was like a Guy Ritchie TV show.
Well, what Fox did was, in the early days of its showing, because every other channel would show movies on Sunday night, and Fox actually had a lineup, and that was, like, it started with like Married with Children and Tracy Ullman and all that shit.
Yeah.
And then The Simpsons really sent it into like the stratosphere.
Yes, it did.
And then when they
Alienation. Remember Alienation?
Yeah, they had a lot of stuff. I think even 21 Jump Street originated in that original Sunday lineup.
It did.
So they had this kind of market cornered on Sundays. Well, then it was like, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to take our most popular show, which was The Simpsons, and we're going to put it up against Cosby. And so they moved that to Thursday nights at 7:00. So for many years, The Simpsons moved from Sundays to Thursdays, and for many years got its ass beat by Cosby until one week, I should say, it beat Cosby, and then it continued to beat Cosby until Cosby went off the air. And then they moved it back to Sunday nights, and it never did as well. So like ever since then, I think they were trying to recapture that idea of, okay, we got this hit show, let's move it here to put it up against something else, and that would just kill it. It never worked the same way. The Simpsons was just that one time it happened to work out for him, but it was the persistence of the Simpsons, and I think more of the fact that Cosby even would bash the Simpsons in headlines and give him more attention than if he would have just kept his mouth shut, kind of thing. But like it was a fluke. But yeah, I think that's what Fox did, is they became the king of moving shows around and killing them by putting them in a shit time slot.
Jabrailin, it sounds like you have an awesome weekend planned ahead of you.
That's such a fun movie.
So let's see. Let's finish up our super chats. So
yes,
we read Boeggs. Thank you very much. Infinity Hand, we read yours. Thank you very much. Mark C, we read all 3 of yours. Thank you very much. Boag, we read that one. Wheezy Bird says manga in 2020 in Japan reached 100 million sales in just 10 series. One series selling 82 million just by itself. So I joke, not joke, but we got the comic. We're putting it out again, folks. Make sure you guys are joining the link. Do you think, Jesse, if I sold 82 million copies of a book, It would be life changing or life ending.
For fuck's sake, dude.
Kill myself trying to fulfill it.
Honestly, if you sold that many, you'd be able to hire people to help you fulfill it, man.
Yeah, you would.
You'd be a
A
bagillionaire.
million books. I'd be like, I'm just going to hire a company right now. I'm done.
You would be like Jeff Bezos overnight if you sold 82 million fucking books, man.
I wouldn't even know what to do with like the money. You're like, oh yeah, you sold 82 million copies of your comic. What are you going to do now? I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do with shit. Because it's one of those situations.
Make more comics at that point. I mean,
Yeah, right. Build a comic company and shit.
Doing that now. But it's like Netflix when you have all those opportunities or all those options to watch, and you're like, shit, I don't want to watch anything because I don't know what to pick. That would be me. I was like, I don't know what to do. I have everything. I can do anything. What should I do? Let's see. Boag says Perlmutter kept the SJWs out. We did read that one. Thank you very much, Boag. Okay, here's one from Boag we did not read. It says the Jedi is going to be Ezra from Rebels. Enjoy.
I wouldn't be surprised.
That's the other popular one. That's probably most likely who it'll be.
Yeah, it would make sense because he's a Disney property. He's owned by Disney.
Well, and Filoni seems like he.
royalties.
Yeah, and Filoni really seems like he's had a lot of influence too over this, or at least, like the whole connecting it to the whole. Yeah,
I feel like it's Filoni getting high off his own supply at this point.
At this point, dude, I think it's been like that for a couple of years.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's see. Our friend Matthew Anderson, thank you very much. He says Disney Star Wars seems like a lost cause, even at its best. Even the sequels were decanonized. Even if the sequels were decanonized, the rest of the universe Disney has fostered is dull.
I agree.
I agree with that, Matthew.
you're not wrong. When the highlight is a fucking streaming show.
One thing I will say to that, though, as I do miss the optimism in the community of trying to rewrite and redo their own Star Wars. I thought that was fun. We had a lot of people that would come on and streams and talk about that. So that's one thing I do miss. The look, Disney Star Wars is dog shit. Clearly, I've made my stance known for years, but I do miss the fun optimism from the fans. Like, hey, maybe we can do our own thing, or maybe they can do a better one. It's like, look, they screwed it up, and now we live in the post Star Wars world, and it really kind of sucks. But,
well, I can't remember. I think it was on a Drunk 3PO broadcast or somebody, or Fandom Menace. I can't remember what it was, but a couple of us just sat down and rewrote The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker, and it was so much better.
Okay, Jeff, I just read the description of this live stream, and I had to say, dude, you are a true nerd for quoting MC Chris.
thank you.
That is, I love that song. This song is hilarious.
Well, I figured most people wouldn't know the spoiler. They look at my backpack's got jets. Well, nobody knows. Well, the next line is on Boba the Fett.
Boba the Fett.
Yeah, Boba the Fett.
I think I like the song better than I like the character. To be honest.
Yeah, same here.
It's hell, man. MC Chris is great.
Yeah,
Right?
no shit. Yeah,
I just
talk about Jay and Silent Bob. Yeah,
Jack and Mir make a porno. That's where I learned that.
yeah.
song.
Well, yeah, connected, but yeah, that's like trying to reconnect the what was that?
I said, I forgot it was in that.
Yeah, that's where I know it from originally. Yeah, that's the first time I heard it.
I'm aware of him, MC Chris, because of C-Lab 2021, because he played
Yep.
Hesh, and he actually had the song in an episode of C-Lab.
I have not heard anything he's done besides Fett's Vet. That's just
Oh
the song I
God, he's
love.
hilarious,
Well,
man.
the
The whole
Batman one he
nerd
did was
stuff.
really good.
Yeah.
Like, I think that one's like right up there with the Fett's Vet one, the one he did about the Batman.
He's in that category. I don't know what he's up to today. I see people in the chat talking, but he's one of those guys that's like pre-Internet 2.0 Star Wars fan that did something. I know Fett's Vet's not like this old song, and it's not brand new either, but it comes from that era of like the Star Wars kids that grew up and liked Star Wars so much that they made it their thing, even when it wasn't still relevant. It had come and gone, and they're like, I still love that shit. And then you're rapping about it and transforming it into something else.
Yeah, mid-early internet kind of time. Yeah,
Well, that song's 20 years old now.
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, it
Came
would
out
have
in
been.
the early 2000s, I believe.
I didn't realize it was that old.
And
Yeah,
that
like-
even existed with the prequels, though. So at least I can say that much. As much as I shit on the prequels, and I know some of us have on the stream.
Oh, of course.
At least that still existed in the world of the prequels.
Okay, so Mecca, you were right. 2001, so the song is almost 20 years old.
It is.
Because I remember seeing it on C-Lab way back when.
Yeah.
And I just remember how
MC
old
Chris is
Peter was.
45.
God, it's such a good song. Folks, if you haven't heard it, I have put it on the end of many a podcast, but look it up after tonight's, well, not after tonight's show. After tonight's show, you should be joining us over on Jesse Milestone's Milestone Entertainment.
Yes, which we've gone way over, unfortunately. I apologize, Jesse, for being so long-winded.
Oh, why would you do this to me? I know it's on purpose. Why do you hate me, Tom?
Tom hates everyone.
Yeah.
That's fair.
When did you ever think I liked anybody?
Never.
Oh shit! I didn't realize he was MCP Pants on Aqua Teen Hunger Force. Thank you, Alfred.
He did a lot. He did a lot of voices for Cartoon Network.
Oh, okay. Just Nova says, I think all the member berries are Dave. Clone Wars uses episodes 1 and 2, and Rebels uses Clone Wars. Mandalorian, anything prior. Good or bad? Well, Just Nova, I'm going to err on the side of bad, because in my whatever and what Disney I think was trying to do is reflect the original trilogy and create a world that was a continuation of that. And you had it until you started to bring in the prequel, Dave Filoni, Clone Wars, Rebels shit. So I'm going to go with bad. What does everyone else say?
About the member berries?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I the thing that really kind of drove me crazy, how they went and decanonized all these things from the EU, but they've decided to start bringing back. So it's just, it just sucks is what it does, because they're just not doing it justice. The whole thing with bringing back Thrawn, and it's like, you're not going to see Thrawn going up against Luke and Leia and Han. It's going to be Ahsoka instead. And
it's going to feel
it's going to be second rate.
I've never been a fan of Filoni, so.
No.
Well, let's not forget, Filoni really is Lucas's protege. So
I don't know how, but
no, I think
other than he's completely full of himself, and he's like the absolute opposite of George Lucas. But
I disagree though. I think there's a lot of problems in execution. I think there's some great ideas across the board in George's later work, but the execution didn't work. And I think that's Filoni too, where you're such a student of the game, you have mimicked him. Fault to all. So
not all Filoni's ideas are bad, but obviously not all of them are great either.
You got some points there, especially with the revisionist history and a lot of things with Filoni, and how you just can't let Ahsoka go.
Yeah. He should have had Vader kill her. As much as I like the character and I wanted to see the character live, he really should have killed her off.
Agreed, because it would go to show you how much more impactful Luke Skywalker's sacrifice, or whatever you want to call it, when he refused to fight him in Return of the Jedi, and the fact that he would, throw down that and the Emperor, and I can't even talk right now.
Well, and it would also make sense in the whole scheme of like the Emperor would like probably provoke him into doing such. And then he would sit there and taunt him for how many years, saying, yeah, you killed a child, but you'll never kill Obi-Wan Kenobi, a real Jedi.
See, I don't like to think the Emperor taunts him. I mean, I'm sure
he does.
I just like to think okay, one day, get yourselves a copy of Star Wars #1 from Dark Horse. Marvel does not get any money from this if you buy an old back issue, but it does show Darth Vader pay for his failures on the Death Star, and it's really funny to watch the Emperor chew him out over like a hollow screen, and everyone else is like deathly afraid of Darth Vader, and they're just kind of standing around watching him get bitched out. It's awesome.
I'm sure it's a lot like the Robot Chicken when you want to let a bunch of teenagers blow up the Death Star. Do you know how expensive that damn thing was?
What's a Millennium Falcon?
What the fuck is an aluminum falcon?
Yeah, that's it. What's an aluminum falcon?
So we have 3 final super chats, folks. Make sure you guys are jumping over to Jesse's stream. I'll drop the link again in just a moment. I'm going to drop the link again to the comic. Make sure you guys are signed up for that. That is just the notification list. You're not signing up for anything yet today. What you will be signing up for is notifications for when our comic campaign goes live. And ours, as in Anna, that Star Wars girl, and myself have teamed up to produce a Fandom Menace cover for Stealing Solo. And it features all kinds of creators that you love. A couple of them are on here tonight, 3 of us actually. And we're just not going to tell you anything else, but sign up for that. And there's a day 1 exclusive Fandom Menace High Council cover with the original guys. And that is going to be finished relatively soon. So be on the lookout for that. Make sure you guys get all your notifications and updates.
I'm glad you're doing this again, because I missed out on the first run.
Same.
A lot of people did. And my #1 thing was our channel grew a bunch since that first launch, and learned how to do it all right, and want to, put the art out there. I'm really proud of the story. I've always been really proud of the story. So I'm glad you're interested. I'm glad as many people are interested as there are out there. And we're going to continue to do this. 2020 was whatever, but learned how to run a business. So that was pretty fucking cool. Now, our friend Justin Proper, thank you very much, Justin. He says, R.I.P. Brandon Moist, one of the nicest dudes I've ever met. May the Moist be with you. The world's a drier place without him. He'd love the jokes. And Justin, you're 100% right. That is the kind of humor the dude brought to the show. Folks, if you want to hear a little more about Brandon Moist, we are going to talk about his contribution to the WCBS podcast, because about 2 years ago, we have an episode titled The Moist Awakens. And you're thinking, oh, what does that even mean? Well, a listener named Brandon Moist, he had taken his name and he had inserted his last name into film titles. So it would be The Moist Strikes Back or Return of the Moist. And that was such a fun game. I laughed till I had a headache. That has become a staple of WCBS. We'll do replace a word with sausage or this word game or that word game. And those all came from Brandon Moist's one contribution. And that's a staple of our show. So Justin, thank you for sending in the super chat. On Thursday, we're going to be playing the game that Brandon Moist created. No super chats are going to be read for that. But come over and hang out, learn about somebody. And he was a good dude. So rest in peace, Brandon. But thank you, Justin, for letting people know in the community.
People actually continue that on other streams too. I've seen that on all kinds of streams, like just the replace a word with some other word, and people kind of continue that. So if you guys do continue that, maybe send a tribute to him where the whole thing originated.
Thank you.
Continue that in other streams,
because he was, like I said, he was a really big fan of all this stuff. Not trying to turn the show into whatever or make this about us, but he was a really cool dude that did a lot of good stuff for people in our community, like really tried to help and did help. So thank you, Mech. I think it's a great way to remember something. It's a tragic thing, it's a sad thing, but I think it's pretty awesome to know where the joke started. So remember the name, folks. Our friend Shadow Fenrir 24 says, random thought, have you guys ever seen the anime film of Highlander, The Search for Vengeance? It was directed by Yoshiaki Kajiwari of Ninja Scroll fame. Well, Shadow Fenrir,
I have it.
I have not.
Mm-mm.
Is it going to be as violent as Ninja Scroll? Because I'm really sold if that's the case.
I hope so.
Dude, I am not the world's biggest anime fan. I like a good amount of it, but the violent, weird, gory, trippy ones like Berserk, those are the ones I tend to like the weird experimental stuff. I think animation has less of a ceiling than actual filmmaking, because you can do so much that is more believable in that world. Because when you do the real world stuff, you got the CGI, the uncanny valley, and all these questions. And I think animation is that one area where you can explore. And I think Japanese exploration is so cool because it's, they have 1 foot in the Western world, but then they have 1 foot in the traditional Japanese culture. And so it's really fun to see how they interpret our culture and update theirs at the same time, plus get really weird and trippy. Now that's, I think, what the beauty of anime and manga is it's a culture very different from ours, but very similar in many ways, aesthetically, certain, constructs and stuff like that. But where the creativity lies, old world, new world. So I think they're the most interesting in terms of creativity right now placed on the planet, because they're not as regressive as we are in certain things. So.
I know. I finally got done reading all 40 volumes of Berserk, which has been fantastic. And I need to go watch the anime at some point.
One of my listeners, I think it might have been Wheezy Bird, sent us the big hardback. Was it volume 4? I don't know exactly what the number is. It's over there. But yeah, he sent us that. That's a fun read. I don't know. I don't like real life violence, but animated and illustrated.
Oh God, it's so over the top at times. It's great. I've been reading them off of Comixology. I actually want to go and buy the leather bound hardback ones that you're talking about. They're just that good.
They are. We have a ton of One Piece here as well. Even Jesse's like, maybe I should read this one day. I'm like, maybe, but let's just keep watching our one show. We watch Yu Yu Hakusho when we're drunk. Weird. And finally, our friend Count 074 says, do you guys remember the show Reaper? It was another good one where they were hunting souls that escaped from the devil. Funny and clever.
It was very funny.
Yes, it was. I enjoyed Reaper so much that I had it pulled up here on screen. Here we go. Tyler Labine, this actor right here that played Tucker, right? Because he's Tucker. Is Alan Tudyk Dale or Tucker? I can't remember which.
Tudyk is Tucker.
Okay, so then he's Dale. Anyway,
yeah, Tucker.
Tyler Labine, the actor right here, I follow his filmography. He's one actor I tend to like most of his work. So yeah, I do remember Reaper.
He's great in that show too. He plays a great D-bag.
Have you ever watched him I think it was like Sons of Tucson or something, not Sons of Anarchy. I know that, folks, but where he basically inherits 2 kids to adopt.
Yes,
to raise them. It was such a weird quirky show, but I like that too.
That was pretty funny. Back when TV shows were good.
Yeah, man.
back before all this nonsense, before the Empire.
Oh God, the dark times, man. They changed everything. So, folks, we're going to get out of here. It's been a super long episode, so make sure you guys do us a favor. Come over to Mindless Entertainment right now. We're going to be talking about what, Jesse?
Whatever the fuck I feel like talking about.
So it's going to be a fun show. We're pre-gaming a little bit. So if you would like more entertainment, and we know you would because why not? Join us over there. I'll put the link in the chat right now. While I'm putting the link in the description, we had a super chat from 007 Cloud. Thank you very much. He says, want to watch Berserk anime? Watch the 1997 anime free on YouTube, Japanese and English dub. Avoid the 2018 animes.
I already watched that one.
How bad was it?
It wasn't bad. It was just it was telling like the origin story of Guts. It did stick to the story pretty decently. But it was a very condensed telling of the origin, but it spanned multiple volumes of the anime, or excuse me, of the manga. So yeah, there was a lot missing, but I think they did a okay job of kind of recounting it. But I want to see the 1997 version because I think that's supposed to be the better one.
I definitely want to check it out. 007 Cloud, thank you very much for the recommendation. And remember, folks, like 007 Cloud, let us know where to watch it. If you guys have recommendations, all I'm going to ask is that you just tell us where to get it. So if it's a basic product, we can figure that out. But if it's a show or if it's a book that might have an app version, like I think somebody requested the Viz Media app, that we check that out too. So
I will tease one thing for my show.
What you gonna tease?
That if you're looking for a good gift for your Doctor Who fans, I guarantee I have something you can get them that they don't already have.
I'm excited. We're getting ready to go through the Tennant episodes of Doctor Who. So Doctor Who is a big part of this household. We just don't ever talk about it. So, folks, the link is in the chat. Follow me over there right now. One more from Andy Lee. Thank you very much. He says, I coined the term Fox when something gets canceled too soon. I like it. I love it, actually.
I like that.
It got foxed.
Oh.
Yeah, like Jesse said, R.I.P. Firefly. That was a damn good show that got canceled too soon.
Maybe I'm thinking of the wrong thing. I don't know.
Firefly is the show with Alan Tudyk and Nathan Fillion. It's
No. I'm sorry. I'm talking about Berserk still. Sorry.
Okay. And then 007 Cloud says the comics you're confusing that with the Netflix movies, the 2017 anime.
Yes, those are the ones I saw. Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Well, thank you, 007 Cloud. Put it like this, folks. Do not watch the 2017-2018 animes of Berserk. You're going to get honey-dicked, like we say on our show.
You is like a truck berserker.
I have that t-shirt, Tom. I wore it in front of the quick
you
stop.
like some making fuck berserker.
Did he just say making fuck?
Did he say making fuck?
So, folks, Comics Division, where can we find you before we go?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at Comics Division, and you could find me on my own channel, which is Comics Division, where I talk about pop culture and things and stuff. I stream every Monday night and Thursday night, and Tom usually joins me Thursday nights for Thursday Night Throwdown if he's not sleeping.
Well, he needs to sleep at least 1 hour.
He does. I feel like I'm asking a lot of him these days when he shows up, so I know he has to sleep.
Let us get the 500 likes right now. Please hit that like button on the way out. And while you're hitting that like button before you leave, where can we find you, Mecha Random, on the internet?
Mecha Random 42. I have a channel. I release many videos in every day. I stream all the time. I have a live channel where a lot of my cooking stuff has been uploaded to. Midnight's Edge After Dark sometimes. And where else? I have no idea. Twitter, Twitch, Patreon, Parlor. I'm forgetting some. Instagram that I barely know how to use.
Instagram, I was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one I always forget. And pretty much everywhere lurking at some point. So say nice things about me.
But, Tom, where can we find you on the internet, sir?
Would you like to suck my cock berserker?
No.
That's beautiful, man.
That's beautiful, man. Why do they call him Snowball?
Well, it's a funny story. We'll tell it on Jesse's stream. We got to watch Clerks, Jesse. You haven't seen it, right?
Nope. I'm not.
Oh my God!
Oh.
Really?
You need to see that movie.
I'm 37.
In a row? I just love that part where he goes, "Hey,
you get back here!"
Don't suck any dick on the way to the parking lot.
Information is very incomplete.
We'll fix that. We'll watch the good ones.
How
And
the
then-
fuck do you sleep with a dead guy? It's not that hard. My mom's sleeping with a dead guy for the last 30 years. I call him dad.
I
Dude,
do love
Randall was the best.
He was great. A 007 Cloud says that Clerks joke is in Berserk in the 1997 outtakes.
Really? That's cool.
We got it all
That
together.
is really cool. In a row, says Doug.
007 Cloud in a row.
I am a customer. I'm going to buy some gum. Here, Chuli's gum.
What a movie. Folks, you can find me here on World Class Bullshitters all the time. We just dropped a video about Oscar Isaac playing Solid Snake. Don't like the casting choice, but it's not for the reasons you might think. He can act now? No. You can also find us on, we're on every social media platform, so find WCS on there. I'll be back Thursday with another video, but make sure you guys are signed up for the comic again. Drawn by me, painted by Anna, that Star Wars girl. Ethan, who's a part of it, says the best representation of himself he's ever seen. Those are his words. You can ask him. So it's going to be an awesome thing. It's the biggest thing the Fandom Menace has ever put out. That first thing that you can actually take home with you. So make sure you guys are signed up for the notifications. Do not miss out on that. Now, our friend Cash Kester says, watch Clerks. Just the first one.
I don't know if I can agree with that.
I can't. I say watch them both.
Yeah, I mean, I love Clerks too. I love it too much.
That's the movie of my friendship with my buddy Dustin. So
It's
Clerks
also
2
Shark. Our Shark. And Jeff is a cancer merchant.
Can't. Oh,
Is it
I
because
do
she
love-
has an extra long clit? What, you told him about that?
So,
Text
folks,
an undersized
come
dick.
back on Thursday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the podcast. Follow the link. Join us over on Mindless Entertainment right now. She's about to hit that live button, so there will be no delay whatsoever. Jesse, do you want to hit it and go live now?
Oh, I can do that. I was going to plug in my light.
Oh,
first.
you should plug in your light, and we'll go live, and people can watch me walk from the High Council to your stream. It'll be like the West Wing.
Interspecies erotica, fucko.
You want to see the walk? The
It can be a
march
dude's
of the
name, too.
Jeff.
Yes, the March of the Jeff.
The march
I
of the
miss
Jeff.
my donkey.
That's like the March of the Penguins, only larger in every single way.
Yeah, I mean, but equally black and white, though.
Equally black and white. I am a man of distinction and mixed background. And here, well, Jesse, we'll even do it one better.
I mean,
I'm showing your stream on my stream.
That's so meta.
Stream sniping.
realistically, this is the High Council after show, so it only makes sense that, we are literally the epilogue to your show. We are
Cat stream.
Cat stream. Cat cam.
Here's Lando, by the way. Lando was typing to my chat. Lando typed.
Well, I'm just gonna keep waving. So, folks, I'm gonna end the stream right now. Catch us in a couple of days back on World Class Bullshitters this Thursday night.
This
And,
is too weird.
It really is.
I'm streaming. It's great.
And then I could turn my camera on too and
Oh my
stream over
God.
here at the same time. So
now we can get like an infinity loop of streaming.
Are we going to have to start coming on camera for High Council now? Is that what we're doing? I see my dog come out.
I like being lazy.
so folks, we're gonna go to Jesse's stream right now. It's happening right now. So folks, join
It's
us over there.
happening. It's happening.
We'll be back next week with more. So always be excellent to each other, folks.
And party on, dude.